this time, I'll call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. We have a full agenda before us, but at this time I'd ask if there's any changes to make to that agenda. Councilman Ritter, I believe you had one that you would like to add.
Yeah, I'd like to have on our HRA meeting for later, item 3, I'd like to move that to 16A if you could.
Okay, so agenda item number 16A would be informational discussion on agenda item 3 from the HRA meeting, since that hasn't, to have that as an informational discussion.
I'm sorry, which one?
3. Agenda item number 3 from the HRA is the discussion of a purchase agreement acquisition of property in the industrial park addition from Pantera LLP. That's coming up in the, I think, Dan, what your request is, it's coming up later in the HRA meeting, have the informational discussion
Yes,
also in the, at the regular council meeting. That's okay with the council? Okay. Any other changes to that agenda? That will operate under that agenda. First item then would be to consider the approval of the minutes of the last regular council meeting that was held on August 6, 2007, as well as a joint council hospital board meeting that was held on August 13th. Council does have the minutes of both of those meetings printed. Are there any corrections to note at this time?
I'd move the minutes for those meetings.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 2 is the first of 3 public hearings that we'll have this evening. Agenda item number 2 is a public hearing to consider the request of the City of Marshall to rezone part of 113 South 10th Street from a R1 one-family residence district to an I2 general industrial district, and to rezone part of 115 South 10th Street from an I2 general industrial district to an R1 one-family resident district. So we'll have a public hearing on that. Following the public hearing, we will consider the ordinance and that would accomplish that rezoning, and then following that we will consider the adoption of the ordinance that would allow for an exchange of property, all related to this action. So to conduct this public hearing, I'll call on City Engineer, Director of Public Works, Glenn Olson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Maybe just a little bit of preliminary information concerning the process. We're going to do kind of a tag team presentation between Mark Hansen and myself, maybe even the City Administrator and the City Attorney may be giving some information as well in this public hearing. This item on the agenda, as well as our next item, are wrapped together completely. One doesn't happen without the other. And in the explanation of that, this is the property that we're talking about. Here's West Main Street and South 10th Street. And we're talking about 2 tracts of land that are shown here as tract 4 and tract 5. And they're located, if you recall recently, this is the area that we acquired for development of residential property, located immediately next to an industrial tract, located immediately adjacent to the properties along West Main Street. And a property transfer was proposed by Mr. Jacobs, and I don't know if Mr. Hess was involved in the original proposal or not, but I know Mr. Jacobs came in and was inquiring about it. It doesn't seem to be a very big piece of property, either one, but it's more complicated than you might think, and we want to kind of go through it slowly enough so that you understand what the issues are here. The transfer, the people making the request didn't want the transfer to take place without assurances that it would be rezoned, because their intent is to construct a storage facility that's typical for the industrial area that he currently owns and operates. And in order to accomplish
Mayor and Council, Track 4, the green section is currently owned and under Parkway 3 addition. Track 5 is currently owned by Hess and Jacob. The proposal is to make the swap. The swap would be Track 4 is I believe 0.63 acres. Track 4 is 0.87 acres. As part of the swap, Jacob Hess would be giving $8,000 towards the swap, and then with that $8,000, the city would be taking care of all expenses. The swap really entails, with the rezoning, the accommodation to build another, as Glenn said, another storage facility. In looking at this process, it was discussed that prior Track 4 was an R1. We wanted to make sure that this swap was not going to create any issues for future development. So in discussing with the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership and the Schwan Food Company looking at the proposed development, they both stated this would not create any issues for that proposed development in the future. Track 5 would then be changed to R1, which is residential, which would be added to that parcel, which they stated they could use that to accommodate future residential growth in that area. At this point, it's really, like, as Glenn said, kind of a chicken and egg. In order to do the sale, we need to do the rezoning. In order to do the rezoning, we want to make sure we understand the whole process of the sale.
Okay. Also, we may want to indicate, Mike, maybe the relationship between the hearing that we're having tonight and the HRA, the owner of the property.
Yeah, the subsequent action later on in the ultimate transfer or the sale and/or exchange as has been prepared by the city attorney would be an HRA action because title to the property currently rests with the HRA, the Housing Redevelopment Authority. The other piece that I think is important to add that enters into the totality of the picture in the terms that were developed was also the willingness by the property owner, that being Hess and Jacobs, to provide alternate access that, if you recall during the construction, to provide access throughout that entire parcel of property that Glenn is referencing that connects into 8th Street, I believe it is, Glenn?
That's correct.
That during that construction, there would have been no access during a period of time. It was very difficult. So there was a willingness to work with us to try to provide that, as you can see, as identified by the terms that our Economic Development Director was able to put together. We recognize that the exchange of the property, their location, the size, the shape, that there was a value difference. We asked our city assessor to identify that dollar amount, and that's where the basis of the transaction, as far as that differential in square footage between the 0.87 acres and the 0.63 acres in value.
Back to the property descriptions themselves, this tract 5 is a portion of a unplatted tract. This tract 4 is a portion of an unplatted tract. And in our discussions just today, the question came up is, in most of our land sales operations, don't we require that to be then subdivided? And that's correct. If in fact the city wanted to acquire, or Mr. Jacobs wanted to sell an entire piece of unplatted land, meets and bounds description land, that can be done that easy. But if in fact it's a portion of an unplatted piece of property, as you can remember with our ALA edition discussion, where that was also unplatted and we required that to be a platted piece of property. In this case, both the city's tract as an unplatted piece of an unplatted parcel and tract 5, which is also a piece of an unplatted parcel. In this case, when we are proposing for that land swap to take place, we believe, and we discussed that with our city attorney today, that the process should entail the development of a plat for that transfer or sale of property that takes place. I know that's something that's new and just kind of came up in front of us today, but there again, we've had some discussions on a procedure by which that could take place. So with all that being said, and with all the work that's gone into it so far, George has worked very well with us to put together this plan for the that you might have, now that you know probably everything that we know about the whole process.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Mark. We'll open up then for questions or input as part of this public hearing. First from the council, any questions?
Yeah, I've just got a question, Glenn or George, who owns the driving surface in front of tracks 5 and 4 on the east-west?
Who owns that?
Yeah,
That's
that's private?
private property. We
Private.
have a temporary easement
Yeah.
for access, but that entire section all the way to here is owned by
Private?
private.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Mayor, if I could supplement that to the agreement that was approved on that, is that that gave us temporary access. I believe, Mark, it was through the end of December. First part of December. At the conclusion of that, what Mr. Jacobs and or Mr. Hess allow as far as usage is up to them with the adjacent neighbors, but our temporary access for construction purposes with Highway 68 only is to that time period.
And in the agreement, it indicates that he has the choice of having us remove it, return it to like condition prior, or keep it at his choice.
Other questions from the council as part of the public hearing? Open up for input from the audience as part of the public hearing. George, you have anything you want to say at this time? Very good. Any final comments, Mark or Glenn?
In the recommendations will come recommendations contingent upon. So we'll have some contingent upon in our recommendation for you when you come to that point of making motions.
If there's no other input as part of the public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So,
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Then the actions. First action would be to consider the ordinance that would provide for the zoning changes. Any questions about that proposed ordinance? If not, is there a motion?
so move that we'd accept the ordinance.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion, those opposed, motion passes. And then agenda item number 2B would be consider the ordinance for the disposition of the city-owned real property as required by Marshall City Charter, section 12-12.05, and that, Glenn, you would add the condition that once it was.
Upon successful completion of the, maybe the attorney could help me out here, upon successful completion of the plating, there's a procedure that he had in mind, so I'll transfer
Dennis.
to Dennis.
The formal plating process has to occur, but it's also my understanding that Mr. Jacob and Mr. Hess would like to begin construction. Now, it's usually not a good idea to start constructing or building on somebody else's property. So we had talked in terms of maybe closing an escrow. You kind of close, you hold everything subject to contingent upon the plating process occurring. Then when we've got it platted, then we'd exchange the deeds. But it just seems appropriate to grant permission to allow Mr. Jacob to begin that process, but he would do that at his risk. If he wants to just wait until it's all done, that's fine. But if there's some way we can accommodate him, we'd certainly work with it. But as indicated, contingent upon the completion of the plating process, the rezoning, clear title, all of those issues.
So your recommendation would be to consider the ordinance, but those contingencies would be as a part of the motion, not incorporated into the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do have one correction. It says section 10, that's a typo. It should be section 5 when it defines the legal description at the top of tract 4. It says section 10, that should be 5.
In the ordinance.
Pardon me?
In the ordinance.
In the ordinance, yes. Yeah.
Mayor, what I'd add is that the actual condition as far as that the agreement that actually formalizes the sale or transfer, which is under the HRA section, would also have that caveat that it be done, that be contingent
questions for the attorney on this? If not, what are the council's wishes on the ordinance for the
Make a
disposition?
motion, we adopt that ordinance with the conditions that have been given to us.
Motion by Charlie, second by Dan. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider the approval of the request to move dwellings into a residential district. 3 dwellings that are under consideration, 3 locations. 603 Heritage Place from 200 South Minnesota Street, 607 Heritage Place from 504 Charles Avenue, 611 Heritage Place from 506 Charles Avenue. Once again, I'll call on Glenn Olson to conduct the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this is Jacqueline's Edition. This is North 7th Street, Heritage Place coming through here with a circle. And these are the 3 locations for the proposal, 603, 607, and 611. Currently, this home has this lot has a home constructed on it, this lot, and this lot. I believe those are the 3 that currently exist. This is the home that's proposed from 200 South Minnesota Street to be moved on 603, the first one I mentioned. 504 Charles, we moved to 607, and 506 Charles, we moved to 611. Those 3 homes to be placed on these 3 lots. As you can see in our memorandum that you've got, the buildings have been inspected, they're worthy of relocation, and there are 2 comments that we have there for you. Not that I'll tell you that number 1 would have to be taken care of no matter if it was on this list or not. So it's really not a contingency. But number 2 is, that's not something that's normally in our building code, but we wanted to make sure that there was some stipulation recommended to council for the length of time for the certificate of occupancy. Those are the items that we have in front of you tonight. If you have any questions, Dale Hall is here too from the building official, from our office, for any questions you might have with him too.
Okay. We'll open it up as part of the public hearing. The first is, are there questions from the council?
Quick one
Dan.
from Dale. Item 2, Dale, what all does complete all site construction to the dwelling, what does that all relate to?
Where is Dale? Dan's question is on the,
On the condition number 2, what does all on-site construction to the dwelling refer to?
Just
that would mean that all of the code items that are required for the construction of the dwelling would be completed. I'm not sure what the question is. See all of the
Well, maybe, do you mean Dan too, landscaping?
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
Sidewalk,
sidewalk to and from, or what is all
does
that?
not relate to
It doesn't, okay, that's what I wanted.
building zoning.
Okay.
so that would be like the electrical, the structural things that would need to be done, foundations, that type of thing.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Dale.
I believe the applicant, Mr. Schilling, is here too. I don't know if you want to make any comments at this time or just respond to any questions that come up.
I could do a preliminary.
Now would be the time if you would want to do that.
First of all, I'd like to thank the council. This project, although it's a bit non-traditional, is proving to be everything that we had expected it would. If you recall, back in January, when I first came in to talk to you about it, we said that we were planning on having the availability of having 13 lots that could be occupied by houses, and that our goal was to try to do either 6 or 7 of them this year, with the remainder of them to be next year or as soon after as possible. That's all subject to availability of structures, because this is a bit different. We don't just go out and build the house. We have to wait for the appropriate house to be available, and then we have to match into the time frame of when it's available. And coincidentally, perhaps, the 3 houses that we did move in, I remember the time frame on it. We asked for permission to move them. I believe that was in March, and the actual moving date was May 15th, because there's that much lead time. And those houses, along with the rest of the construction of the project, have been taking place simultaneously, which is, again, a bit non-traditional, because typically when a development takes place, the development site is prepared and then the construction starts. In this case, it was done simultaneously. So at certain points, it looked like we were ahead of ourselves, and perhaps we were. But the public acceptance of the project has been excellent also. Of the 3 houses that we did move in, 2 of them were given certificates of occupancy and are occupied. The 3rd one, we have somebody anxiously waiting to move into that one. And I believe we're very close on the certificate on that one. Last discussion that I had indicated that we had a very minor item to take care of yet. It involves the complicated process of installing 2 screws into a piece of plastic. That's about what we have left on that one. So, and the public acceptance goes farther than that. We actually have a waiting list, and of the 3 houses that we're proposing to move in, we have 2 different couples waiting until they're ready, and they plan to take those houses. The project in general, just for an update for you, the water system is all in now and constructed and ready to be turned over to the city. The sewer in its entirety is now completed, including the lift station, all wired and functional, and is now ready to be turned over to the city. The storm sewer system, which albeit is relatively short, the existing storm sewer from the city is right here. The storm sewer then comes in to a catch basin right here, jumps across our street to another catch basin right here, and then the tiling around the streets deliver the water to that storm sewer system. That, fortunately, was completed on Friday, and for Saturday it got a very good test, and it passed the test very well. I gotta say that Dwayne did design it appropriately, and the contractor did construct it appropriately, so it handled that rain very well. Once again, we've chosen these particular lots based on the shape of the houses. And so the first house is sort of an L-shaped house, and so we were going to place it on this lot, canted at an angle to match how generally the lot faces the street. So it wouldn't sit straight this way. It would be at a bit of an angle like this, matching the street. Then with the L of the house coming this way and then toward the back. Leaving room on this side for a driveway, and it has a garage which is sited to match the house. That we would locate behind it here, which would naturally give sort of a private backyard to that house. It fits that lot quite well. The second house that was shown is a smaller 3-bedroom rambler, traditional, basically 1,000 square feet. We'll set that one on this lot, again canted at a little bit of an angle so it isn't facing straight out onto the edge of the driveway. It doesn't have to look at the lift station, which sits right here. It will be facing off this direction, leaving room on this side for a driveway so that a garage could be set over on this side, and that garage is yet to be identified. And the third house, which is the taller one that you saw the picture of, that one is going to sit on this lot, and again facing the access to the street. So it won't sit square on the lot, but it'll sit at an angle here. And so basically, as you would drive into the development, that would be the house you would be looking directly at. Saving room over here so that a driveway could come in like this and have a garage here. Now, we have saved room on this lot for a garage to set right here. And we have a small garage for that. Haven't placed it there yet. And the reason for that is that because we're doing a couple of things simultaneously, we had to actually see, in a lot of cases, we had to see the actual level of the street so that that would get built before we could put some of these structures in. This house is sort of a situation by itself because the street was in place up to this point. The house that sits here and the house that's set here, we had to do a little bit of estimating as to where that street was going to be. And so we kept the houses raised up out of the ground farther than we would normally be traditional. In fact, this house here really was only sunk into the ground 3 feet. And it looked like it was way up in the air. But once the road, the street got graded in properly, and the excavation from the street used as fill on these lots, it actually came out that we guessed right. And it is got a gentle slope away from the house so that the water will come to the street and to the back. This house here also, we didn't do too badly as far as projecting where the street would be. However, having seen the street and having experienced the water table with the excavation, we are going to take these two houses and actually raise them up just a little bit more than that one. Although in this last rain, this house did not have any moisture issues. Some pump didn't even want to activate. We were watching that one pretty closely. The swale that was cut along both property lines to catch any runoff from our property here and direct it away from neighboring properties, this swale worked properly, as did this swale here, so that water is not running off onto somebody else's property. Let's see, what else? What haven't I covered that might be a question for you? The timing, by asking for your approval to move these houses in this evening, that doesn't mean the houses are going to show up tomorrow or this week or next week or probably not even the week after, just like it was before. In March, we needed to get approval so that we had the prep time. We have to do a certain amount of disassembly where the houses sit. We have to do a certain amount of assembly here, getting basements ready, and then the houses can be moved. So I would say that we're talking about approval for something that will happen 3 to 4 or more weeks down the road. In that time, during that same 3 to 4 weeks, then you will be seeing the rest of the lot preparation that normally is done prior to construction. You'll see that finish up and happen. Because now that the street is in place, the sloping back from the street of all of the lots, and then the rest of these lots, these here, this one, and these two, I don't expect that we'll do anything with this year. So what will happen as soon as is possible now is they will get properly tilled and seeded so that there will be grass cover on those. So that's the plan there. And we're ready to do that now that all the rest of the excavation is done and the soil that's going to be there has been placed there. So that's where we're at. So with that, if there are, as other questions come up, I'll be happy to answer them, but that's the synopsis of it. And we're excited that it is working just as we had proposed that it would, and not too far off on the timetable that we had hoped for. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions this time? Charlie?
I guess I got a question. First of all, when you said it's very well received by the public, because you got 5 people renting them, that's kind of a little, according to the phone calls I get, the people that talk to me, it's not as received as well as you think it is, because those, but, I don't know, we get an awful lot of negative feedback on that addition. Now, the road itself, is the road done?
The road is completely graded and has all of its compacted surfaces from the very base down below to the standard that you would expect in any street, and it has the gravel base and the crown. What is left to do is the granular surface that we want to place on it, so that it's not dusty. So the crushed granite is not in place, but it is a very drivable surface. In fact, it is the same type of drivable surface of any gravel street, and it is compacted to the point where it actually is more drivable than the existing street was. So, and it is crowned and is
No.
draining water.
Now, how was that street prepared? I mean, you dug down, how far, filled with what?
Well, first of all, along this side of the street and up like this is where the sanitary sewer went in. And so that is down, I'm estimating here a little bit, but I believe around 8 feet that is down and brought back fully compacted. Down the other side of the street is where the water line went in, and that is down the traditional 6 feet. So that the water line, so that was fully compacted. And then after that was all filled back in and brought back up to grade, then the entire street was excavated yet once again down to the depth that described by the engineer. And I'm thinking it was approximately 3.5 feet. I don't have that statistic in front of me, but that was per the engineering specs, and brought back up with compacted granular surface with the fabric underneath it, as is required for a street which would be fully finished later, and then brought back up on top, and now has a layer of Class 5 gravel on top for the driving surface with the proper crown on it. So it is, as I'm told by the engineers, it is ready for asphalt whenever we choose to put it on.
Well, the other question I got then is, when you start at the bottom of the hill, come up the hill and go back to the original street that was there, was that down 3 feet? Was that dug down 3 feet? and
That was dug
refilled?
down farther than that, because that was all taken out to put in the water line, and that was all taken away earlier in the year and was dug down that far.
So all the way around and down that hill, I could take a core sample and find new gravel down over 3 feet deep.
In this case, you wouldn't find new gravel here. You would find the original compacted clay, and you would find a significant amount of natural fine sand that we found out that hill is completely made of. So it has very good drainage.
So that's right to the city standards, Glenn?
Yes, it would be.
That hill would be, if you dig down to,
From this point on,
yeah, to the bottom of the hill.
It hasn't been certified to me yet, but in fact, if we're gonna take over the street, when we would, it would have to be certified that it is brought to street standard. I would expect that they would have that when they get done with their process, because if they don't, then we would have to go in and core and remove that if it would be taken over by the city. I think maybe, was your question too about this section?
No, it wasn't about that section, it was about that section, because I mean, I've been out there numerous times, and I didn't see any dig down at all, and
Yep.
Oh,
the
it was
driving
dug
surface
down.
that was there before they put the gravel on top wasn't the greatest either.
They did excavate it,
They
they
certainly-
did put down fabric underneath the entire length. We did give them the information of what would be required when and if they would want to transfer it to us. And we said, you take it now or you take it later.
Right.
And so I believe, and we have not been certified to that effect yet, but I believe that they got together with their contractor and made those changes to accomplish the fabric. And usually what we do put down is a granular fill. It's normally sand material compacted, then the Class 5, and then the asphalt surfacing. But yes, this entire section should all have been done that way, if in fact they want to transfer.
Did you know it's been done that way?
I do not know that at
That's
this
the
time.
question I was asking.
That would have to be certified to us by their engineer before we took it over.
But let me remind you that at this point in time, we're not talking about turning this over to the city. This was always designed to be a private street, to be maintained by us, which we still intend to do. But based on suggestions from Glenn and others, we actually did more prep work on this street than we had anticipated, just so that at some point, future generations might have a different attitude and the prep work is done so that they could continue this trade.
Now, you just said there was 2 houses that are rented right now.
Yes.
There's nobody living in that blue house?
In the blue house, there is someone who is ready to move in, has moved her personal property in, and has actually been there throughout the day, most days, unpacking and cleaning and waiting for the time that she can actually live there. Fortunately, she had to move out of where she was, and I had another vacant in another spot that I allowed her to use, so that she is camping there.
And she's not living there, so if I went out there tonight, I wouldn't find anybody living there.
I don't know how late somebody works there, I don't monitor. But I know I provided a different place for her.
It does not have a C of O yet, in my
No, and
understanding.
we've been conversing with that, so.
So there should not be anyone living in there.
Well, maybe she just parks her car there and then walks back to the apartment. I don't know.
And if anyone knows that to the contrary, that there is someone living there, we would send that for enforcement.
Understood.
We'll hold up just a second, and then, in a few minutes, I'll have you come up. We'll finish up with Ron at the
Okay,
podium.
the other questions I have for you is on the finish of the houses. They were finished and you got a certificate of occupancy and I went out there and I found 2 people that were renting out there and you've improved some of the houses somewhat, but, still, there's an awful lot of what you call cosmetic stuff that has to be done to the houses that, cosmetic things are difference between a slum and a housing addition.
Oh.
Difference between the people really accepting it and people being very discouraged by it. So those cosmetic things are kind of important to me.
Absolutely.
But there's also some issues that I had with, I guess I haven't done a lot of building code inspection stuff, but I've had some work done and I've had some, conversations with it. And when I see a step that comes down to the bottom of the step and it's on a grade like this here, you step off, that's your landing platform. To me, that seems like a safety violation. When I see a deck that's there with no rails, that seems like a safety violation. I mean, so I don't know how
Okay.
those houses receive those certificates of occupancy,
Okay, well,
but I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Okay.
About people living there with no street, and some of those issues were no driveway, silo staves going up to the door.
okay.
Those issues concern me. And do
That-
I want to put 3 more houses in? I'm having trouble wanting to put 3 more houses in until them things are brought to,
Well, and I appreciate that. I have exactly the same concerns that you do, except that I have a little better, I think, from what I'm hearing, I have a little better appreciation of the time frame involved. Okay, now, first of all, you said they've been brought up a little bit. Let me define a little bit for you. All 3 of those houses that were brought in have been had all their plumbing totally removed and entirely new plumbing put in them. They are 100% up to 2007 standards. All of their electrical wiring was removed and put in new. That is all up to 2007 standards. Okay, they are sitting on poured foundations, which is as good as or better than most houses. I don't know that there is a better foundation. You talked about whether there are any safety violations regarding the decks. There are not. The standard for the deck is that if the deck is more than 30 inches off the ground, there needs to be a guardrail. Okay, the deck which is of more than 30 inches off the ground does have a guardrail, and if you were out there on that side of that house like you claim, you saw it. The other deck is 27 or 28 inches off the ground. It is not a safety violation. The sloping of the ground in front of the step, the standard for steps is that there would be 8 inches per rise, okay? The measurement on those houses is that the last step to the earth is 8 inches, just like the steps going up. There is some slope on the first house. It does slope away because we have not been able yet to complete all of the rough grading on that side of the house. But so the tenants did not have to walk on soil, wet soil, mud today. There were temporary pavers put there. There were silo staves placed, so they would have stepping stones. Okay, the yellow house, the landing at the bottom of the step is perfectly to grade, and there is the beginning of a sidewalk going off toward the driveway, which has been graded, and were it not for the rain on the weekend, would have its gravel surface, because that does have its proper slope from the street. So the fact that you were out there a few days ago and saw something that was different doesn't mean that there isn't progress, and doesn't mean that there won't be progress, and that's why I'm pointing out to you and to the rest of the council that we are finishing that while we are prepping the new houses for arrival. Okay? And so I'm simply asking that we get permission to continue the process while we finish up the process we've started. And the two are totally separate. Whether the new houses fit the description of what belongs in the neighborhood is a separate topic from how fast this project is happening and in what order it's happening.
Okay, other questions from the council, Mr. Schultz?
Yes, just a quick question, Glenn or Dale. I don't recall from back in March, I got a short memory. Are there sidewalks planned for this?
Sidewalks only, not around along the street, no.
Okay.
But access from the houses either to their parking area or to the street, depending on the configuration of the lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up now for other input. We're in the public hearing. I need to ask that as you make comments that you come up and use the microphone. The reason for that is that this is on, will be rebroadcast on cable television. So anyone that would like to make a comment as part of the public hearing, come up, use the microphone at the podium, and then also give your name and address for the record. Yes.
Okay, I'm Joanne Gould, 412 North 7th Street. We're right on the end where it says Larson's 1. Right there. We're probably the longest ones that have lived in that neighborhood. The other house that was across the street, John Tuft, they had just bought the house, so they haven't been there as long as we have. Got one real major concern. Ron said he's gonna put some kind of coating over the street that goes in front of us there, that goes into Jacqueline's addition. Okay, before Ron bought that, the street went in front of our house, and then the hill started there. In the wintertime, the city of Marshall would plow that because it was a Marshall street. We had to fight for that one. But they plowed it, and they dumped the snow right up on top of the hill, or they dumped it into the house, which is right next to us in that big empty lot there. Our number one concern now is what are they gonna do with that snow? Are they gonna plow it up to the end, dump it on Ron's property to go into Jacqueline's addition? And then what's Ron gonna do with it? Is Ron gonna take the whole snow removal out of there for us? We've been there, I suppose, 6 years, and we've probably had one good winter where we've had no snow. We've had snow quite deep in there. I'm sure Ron's not gonna want all that snow dumped right in the middle of his street. That's our number one concern.
Okay, Glenn, can you address that?
Yes, I can. We will have to take care of the snow. And I know that is kind of a vague answer for you, but there's two things that we have to address. The two things she just mentioned is this is a public street and this is not. And Ron wouldn't appreciate it if we moved this and dumped it on his hill in the middle of his private street. So we're either going to have to do like we do in all the residential neighborhoods, is plow both sides, the middle to both sides. This side doesn't have curb and gutter. This side does have curb and gutter. And so there's an issue there of how far we open it, you know. But our street department would be responsible for the snow removal and generally splitting it both directions from the center, like we do in every residential neighborhood. And that's how we'll have to handle it. We won't be able to dump it at the end anymore.
Okay.
Do you have another question?
we had? Okay, I'm gonna let John take over.
This one, the one that was done to cut in for one of the utilities will have to be maintained and replaced by the developer. And any excavation that's taken place, I don't know what the condition of this street was before he started. If this was entirely asphalted or partially asphalted either. We
No,
do have
it
some
was,
pictures
it was
of-
all very hard gravel is what it was. Lately, we've had an awful lot of dust going through there, you know, you can't sit outside or anything.
Lots of if you do have any issues though with dust, make sure you bring that to either his attention or to ours, because he is required to do dust control in the construction of this, and that includes this section for getting in and out. So, you know, it's usually either dust control or it's muddy. So that's how gravel roads are. There's usually no in between. But once it dries out again after this significant rainfall, and I did go to this back area to see what the drainage condition was after the rain, but this is being gravel. It needs to be brought back by the developer to at least the condition as it was before he started. And that has to continue throughout his process. He has to operate and maintain that system. Now, let's say he gets done with this major part of his construction work, it is the city's responsibility to come in there and do regular maintenance work. I don't know how many times they've bladed that section before, but hopefully they did that a couple of times a year to crown it up
Yeah.
and get it operational. That's what we would tend to continue to do. Now, if Mr. Schilling's operation to clean this of snow, when he enters into that neighborhood with his equipment to do that, we would appreciate it if he dropped the bucket, you know, what we need to drop the bucket. We try to do that, whether it's the state or the county or the city. The first guy through, we like to drop the bucket and try to take care of that. But then sometimes it creates some problems too. First guy dropped the bucket, now there's a windrow, and then I cleaned out in front of my driveway and I got through that, and then the darn city came and they pushed that all into my driveway again the second time. And sometimes it happens the third time. And so depending upon the snowfall and things, I will say though, that it is our responsibility to take care of this part of the dedicated street, and we would have to work together with it. Don't be afraid of calling us if there's a snow removal issue over and above what you've had before.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you have any other questions? Okay, how far are you going with that granite, Ron?
On my property.
Just starting up there to where the hill was, then down?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
No, we may need some maintenance of this part because he's hauled a lot of material in there, Ron. We may need some maintenance of this, and depending upon what he hauls in there to maintain it, might be the same or something different. We would require at least class 5 to bring it back to the surface that it was before he started. But if it could be something else, we'll certainly be discussing that with the owner.
Okay.
Okay, do you have any other questions? Okay, other input as part of the public hearing? Yes.
My name is John Tuft. You were talking about occupancy, which Charles was hinting upon. It rained Friday night. Why would that woman have a problem getting out from behind her place if she hadn't parked there Friday night to get out Saturday morning? A point of thought.
Yep.
My name
Yes.
is Kay Nauman. I live at 608 Susie Drive, which abuts one of the properties, the other way, Glenn, right there, the corner one. No, over one, right there. I have several concerns and have had ongoing concerns. I think you've probably all seen it just about all of these meetings and stuff. Part of it is what Charlie had addressed, the certificate of occupancy. And according to the hearing that you're having tonight, you have a condition 2, that's for on-site construction. And my concern is too, Ron says that he hopes that we don't hinder, that the progress is moving, bringing other houses. My concern is that he finishes the houses that are there. I walked through that area last night, about 7 o'clock, when it was, had rained all day, and it was raining at that time. The surface on the sides is not solid. I sank in quite a bit. It might be on the crown that it's solid, but on the sides it's not. My concern is also the house that he says is not occupied. From where I live, I see lights on and cars in that property day and night. Kids on that back deck jumping off, which Ron says has railings, is 30 inches or whatever, and is supposed to have railings. Like I was there last night. I walked along the back line between his property, where the swell is, and along the Susie addition. I did not see any railings on those properties that he's talking about. The blue house on the back side of it, from where I am able to see it, there's siding that's off of it, where they tore the porch and stuff off. There's bare wood that's there. It's very tacky looking. It does not look like a house that, that we should be proceeding to allow other houses. My belief is that these houses need to be finished before other houses are brought in. The yellow one, on the other side around the door and stuff, there's some finishing that needs to be done there as well. The deck that's there, that's a smaller deck with steps that go down to it. I think they're temporary steps by the look of it. The plywood that's laying there for the access to the houses, just like he had said, whether it's tiling, there's plywood to the gray house. There's plywood to just about all of the houses. I walk by this area every morning at 5 o'clock when I go out for a walk. I come around on 7th Street and I walk by there and I see the lights on. I see, the cars that are there. The first big rain that we had about a month and a half ago, the people that had to get tow trucks to get them out of there because it was so bad. And I know that he's done some work to it since then. But like was suggested, that the blue house that is not occupied, and the lady had problems getting out of there Saturday morning. I'm not quite sure about that. Another issue that I would like to raise about the street, I'm not sure how well all of you are versed on city ordinances and stuff like that, but section 66-105, subdivision D, says private streets or roads. In cases where a private street or road is allowed, it shall meet the following requirements. Subdivision 1, private streets or roads shall be paved by the developer to a width of no less than 28 feet and maintained to a passable condition. Greater width may be required when necessary. All private streets, roads must provide a minimum height clearance of 14 feet, 6 inches, and are subject to the same grade requirements as public streets. The property owners or agents shall place street signs on all private streets or pay the city to place street signs on the private streets at the locations the city engineer deems necessary for the safety and convenience of the public. I've seen no signs indicating what streets those are, what the houses are, or anything else. This right here to me says that that road needs to be paved. I don't see any way around it that it's not supposed to be paved unless I'm reading this ordinance incorrectly. But big concern is the pavement, the paving of the roads, the height and all that it says right here, the 14 feet, 6 inches. The water runoff, I guess I'm okay with that. The rain occurred. Like I said, the street as it is right now, I don't think it's, if 2 cars would meet there, I think one of them would have a problem on either side, because like I said, I walked there last night and it's not very steady. The houses do not meet the standards of the neighborhood as far as I'm concerned, by the way that they look, the siding not being on them, and different things like that that are not done. I can't believe that if I, as a homeowner, applied for a permit to do some improvements or remodeling on my house, that it would pass looking the way that these houses look, whether it be the deck, the railing, the houses in general and stuff like that. I just don't think that it's very neighbor-friendly.
Thank you, Kate. Glenn, do you want to make any comments, especially on the pavement issue?
I could on the pavement issue. In the same section, section 7, and we addressed this in the development contract with the property owner, the city will not subsequently accept a private street or road for dedication unless it's brought to city standards. And part of that is the paving portion. We addressed that in the development contract with them and said that if in fact it was left in a gravel condition, it must be brought in a paved condition prior to its transfer to the city. Like we said with the base material, and Charlie's comments were well taken, that if in fact they scraped off the top surface and put 6 inches of gravel down, and prior to transferring it over to us, we would go out there, core the street, determine that it wasn't brought to standard, require them to remove it all, go down, put fabric, gravel, and paved surface on it. So, yes, in fact, if we were going to take it over, we would require that to be paved to a minimum of 32 feet wide instead of 28 feet. If you have any questions about that or our future taking it over.
Charlie?
I've got a question about it, because here it says, private roads and places, in the case where a private street is allowed, and will meet the following requirements. And in that, number one, it says private streets will be paved by the developer to no less than 28 feet wide and maintained in a passable condition. That doesn't say to me that that street is turned over to the city.
That's correct.
That is paved and kept in a passable condition by the person that owns it. That last number 7, where it says that it gets switched over to the city, was presented to us when we did this whole plot thing, and we were under the impression that he could do whatever he wanted because it's a private drive. And when I look at this, I don't believe that that's the truth.
No, it would be necessary for him to pave it to that width or with a paved section unless the city council acts otherwise. In our development contract, it indicates that it wouldn't be paved until that time it was brought forward to the city.
When we had the development contract discussion, we were presented with the fact, at least I believe, and the other council members can weigh in on this, I was under the impression that we had no choice because he could do what he wanted because it's a private street. And according to this, private streets need to be paved. And the question I got to bring forward is I've talked to several people that do developments in the city of Marshall, and they're saying this to me. They're saying, be careful of what measure that you use to measure that addition by, because that's the measure that we're all going to be using from this time forward with the legal precedents.
The issue there too is all of the other subdivisions that you're talking about, I believe, are intended to be taken over by the city.
But then again, some other developer could come in and we could have 7 or 8 Jacqueline additions sitting around town. And they could use that as the standard and whatever standard we put forward. Now, the standard I was given at that time said he could do anything he wanted. I don't believe that that's true. Now, I'm going to leave the floor for anybody else in the city council that would like to say how they felt when they were given that information, but I thought I was really misled.
That's the only location that I could give you for an explanation of that, Charlie, is the item number 7 of not accepting it. And I thought we did a pretty good job of explaining it, but if not, we apologize for that.
Mike?
Partially, I guess, I've been on the council for quite a few years, and very honestly, I don't remember all of the codes and ordinances and so forth. But I guess I have to agree with Charlie in that when this was presented, as I remember in March, we were made aware of number 7 requirement. We were never told anything at all about number 1. And if I would have known there was the number 7 conditions, not just the 7th one, I would never have voted for it because of number 1.
Maybe another response to that is the existing street it connects to is gravel as well.
But it's not a new development? No.
No.
And
No,
to get back,
that's correct.
are you done, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, I'm under the same understanding that you other 2 guys were on this whole thing. I was surprised to see this in front of me, especially item 1, because I was told there was nothing we could do as far as requiring a hard surface, and that it had to, that, like Ron said tonight, he agreed to build it per your standards, so in the event someday you wanted to turn it over to the city, everything was there. The easement, the width, the easements were in place, the drainage.
And would have to pave it.
Yeah, if it was turned over to the city. But what we're looking at here is a private development
other input as part of the public hearing?
I will say this is very unfortunate.
I'm Deb Pick, and I live at 612 Susie. That gray house is right behind me, and I would invite anybody from the council tomorrow to go and take a look at the house. I have to agree with Kay and John that she has been living there with 3 children. And I guess, I don't know, but I would like to find out who is going to be living there, because I actually have some social service issues. So, but that's what I have to say. I don't feel we should bring more houses in until these are brought up to standards. Like Kay said, the back, you see the wood, the deck. On the gray house, if you look at the peak of the roof, there's a hole in it. You know, the re-roofing, I think it needs to be re-sided and re-roofed before anybody can live in it. Thank you.
I've got a,
Peggy?
Hello, I'm Peggy Hames. I live at 103 Ranch. And Mr. Ritter used the word unfortunate. You know, it's most unfortunate for us homeowners who have been coming here before you many times before, you know, explaining some of these things, our feelings. You know, Mr. Sano, I appreciate the fact that you have gone out and seen a part of it. I'd invite you to come to my backyard and view it from my perspective. Maybe there's been a lot of grading going on. I can't tell from my property that there is a road there. All I see is about 3 feet of soil that's tilled up. I don't know how anybody could walk on it. As far as seeding it, I don't know how anybody could think that they're going to seed it this fall. I invite the entire council to come to my backyard and take a view of this 103 Ranch Avenue.
Yes?
I'm Cecilia Sano, and I'm going to read a letter that my son wrote. He was unable to be here. He had to be in Chicago, part of his job. He lives in the first house there that's right behind Gold's. And it says, I'm writing this to let the people know I live at 613 Heritage Place in Marshall. It has been brought to my attention that certain things have been said that I said. First, the house I live in is fit to be lived in. It is and always has been. Ron has been an excellent landlord. If I have any questions about the house, he has answered them. If something was overlooked in the placing and setting of the house, it was done as soon as that was noticed. I like living where I do and look forward to seeing the community grow. Feel free to call me if anyone has any questions. And he gave his cell phone number and his home number. Okay, I'll leave a letter with the council. And I have been in the house. I know there was, when they moved in sooner than it had planned because the Marshall Properties, the house that they were living in, they said was sold. But we found out that they had rented it for more rent. That's why they had to move. So that's why they moved in sooner than what was planned and why the work wasn't done. But the house, when they moved in, was livable. There was a few things that had to be done yet, but Ron has been getting them done. And anybody, like Troy says, anybody that wants to go tour the house, he can call me or him, and we'll take you over there.
Thank you. Thank you. Still in the public hearing. Any other input as part of the public hearing?
I just have a couple additional comments to make as far as the ordinance that I had mentioned and stuff, and that there was some talk from the council. I guess I would be interested, is the agreement that you made with Mr. Schilling available to the public, that we can see that this was agreed upon before it was done, why the private street part was never addressed, and why some of the individuals on the council actually did not even know about it, and why there's something that can't be done about it now, because I don't believe that it should be left as is to this point.
Maybe a comment from Mr. Schilling, too,
Thank you.
on the paving.
Mr. Schilling.
Okay, thank you. I find some of these comments really quite interesting. back to what I said earlier, is the fact that we had to prioritize what was done first. The health safety issues were the first things done, and I will not try to say in any manner whatsoever that we don't have some cosmetic issues left to be done. That is certainly true. Given another week's time, many things can change very quickly. In fact, Charlie, you were out there a little less than a week ago. You were pointing out some things to me. I've got some photographs that I took today that I'd like to show you, and I think you will see some changes.
I've already
in
looked
that.
at it, I was out there today.
Okay, but I think I'm going to show the photographs because they also dispel some other things that have been said. Anybody help me drive this thing? I don't want to ruin what you got out there. Okay, this is a photograph of the 608, and you will see as you come down the steps are leveled off. There is no excess slope at the front. You see the beginnings of a sidewalk going off to the right-hand side. You see the driveway on the right-hand side. This has now that the street level has been established, you see the outline of the driveway going in. Were it not for the rain that happened, there would be a driveway going in to a spot where the garage will sit, and then the sidewalk will continue to that point. But we didn't take it any farther than this because we don't know exactly what that point is until the gravel is there. And so yes, I did put a temporary path so that nobody has to walk into their house and step in mud. So everybody can get from the driving surface to their house. In this case, part of the final sidewalk is there.
Ron, when was the step level before or after people moved in? The base underneath the step, where your bottom step comes off and you step down?
Right here.
Was there people living there before that was leveled?
It was leveled, but not the 30 inches that it's normally. There was a level platform for one step before the slope started down. I stepped in and out of that house many times. It was not an uncomfortable step. And so it was at the 8-inch level, and to put this concrete there, I did scrape away some gravel and put the concrete there, back at the 8-inch level. Okay? Now, the sidewalk that is now there is approximately 30 inches wide. It was not level for 30 inches, no question there. But there was a place to put your foot down onto it. The other deck that is mentioned sits right here. It does not have a railing because it is 22 inches off the ground. Correct, the assumption is correct. This is a temporary step, and again, that will be a permanent step put on there just as soon as that final grade is established right there. Can I use the remote? I was showing where the buttons are on there. Okay, this is the street that apparently cannot be walked on without sinking into it. We've got construction equipment on one side, we've got a full-size car on the other side, and we've still got room in between for 2 cars to pass. None of that equipment or the car is sinking in. So I don't know where this person was walking unless she chose to walk over here where it's muddy. That's her choice, I guess, but there is plenty of rigid surface, a full 40 feet wide. So I totally say that what was said is absolutely erroneous. There was some question earlier as to whether we had storm sewer. Here is one of the storm sewer grates, and it's got the fabric in it so that until this surface around it is fully packed, that miscellaneous material cannot get in it because this is a fabric which will allow water to go through but will catch any granular things or miscellaneous that is in there. And here is the one on the other side of the street, the same way. And these did handle the water very well in this last storm. I wasn't here at the last council meeting, but at that point in time, somebody was talking about being forced to live where there were windows boarded up. I brought this photograph to explain what they were talking about. These two spots here, these two dark spots, are beam pockets. When a house is moved, there have to be beams underneath it. These were never intended to be windows. And there were temporary closures put on there, which were made out of wood, but they were secure. There was no critters going to get in. There were no persons going to get in. There was no water going to get in. And we actually hadn't decided if we were going to put glass block or concrete block in the windows until we could decide what level this future patio area was to be at. And now that we've seen that, it's actually coming up on the openings a little bit, and so we decided to go with the concrete block. So if anybody is recalling somebody's ascertainment that there were boarded up windows, they were talking about the temporary closures that were put right there. So just wanted you to see those and to say that some of the things that have been said are not 100%. And the cosmetic work will continue. As soon as it's dry enough, we will be graveling the driveways, because now with the street in place, we will be able to have the proper levels. I would guess that the driveways will all be in, the sloping away from the street will all be done, and the seating, which I don't know why it can't be done. That escapes me why someone would think it couldn't be done, because it is level, and it just needs to be finely tilled and seeded. And then it won't look like dirt anymore. So that will be done. All of those things, my estimate of time, including the replacement of the siding, which is intentionally left on the back burner until all of the life safety things, health safety things inside the house were done. All of that, my guess, if the weather cooperates, we'll be talking about in the next 10 days.
Okay. Okay, other input as part of the public hearing. Ron, did you have any comment you wanted to make about the plans for paving the roadway surface?
I was under the same assumption that I would be allowed to operate it as a granular surface because it's a private development so long as I maintained it. That was the premise that we did the development on. So if that is wrong, we're all surprised on that one, because everything that I've done and said has been upfront as to what we plan to do, and we've done every bit of what we plan to do. Maybe not on the timetable that some people had expected, but we're doing it in an orderly fashion. And I apologize to the people who have to look at the ugly backside of that gray house. That will be corrected very shortly, and it will match.
Okay. Part of the public hearing, any other input? Mike?
Yes, I guess in that development agreement that was drafted by Ron and I'm presuming city staff, maybe city attorney, it seems awful strange to me that 7 basically was quoted verbatim, and someone, or what if for whatever reason, none of us were informed about number 1. I'm very disappointed. What's occurred is not fair to anyone. Ron, were you aware of number 1?
No. But from what I understand of your description of number 1, and that's the paving issue, no, not until tonight. I assumed that everything that we were doing was exactly as we had all planned and according to all ordinance.
I'll argue with that just a little. He knew it was required to be paved if in fact we took it over.
True.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
It would stay private as well.
So are we.
That's great.
So were we, yeah.
That's,
I got a question for Dennis. You know, Dennis, that agreement that we have, if we would want to include pavement on that rather than granite, is there any opportunity to change that?
After reviewing the statute, it seems to me that it should be changed. This is shall be paved, even if it remains private. I too am surprised. It would seem there's got to be an amendment to that agreement.
we can't go forward until it's right.
No.
Well, as part of the public hearing now, once the public hearing is concluded, then we can talk about what action. One of those actions might be, addressing that agreement, tabling and the issues that we have before us until that agreement is reviewed. Jenny?
I guess I distinctly remember asking about pavement, because I asked you, Glenn, when we were discussing it and it was going to remain gravel, I said, wouldn't that devalue the already existing residences if they didn't have curb and gutter right across their yard from the resident? Wouldn't that devalue their property? Because I know what my neighbor does or does not do to his property affects my property. And your argument, I guess I didn't find it very compelling. You said, no, I don't think so. And so I voted against this development. But we, as the governing body of Marshall, voted for it. And so therefore, when it came opportunity to vote for these houses to come in, I guess I voted for those houses to come in because, number one, they were going to be inspected by the city. These weren't slummy houses that were going to get popped on, whatever. And then secondly, you talked about improvements that are in the make, but I guess they haven't happened yet. And then finally, some of the grading that you were going to do was probably even going to help some of the existing neighbors.
And it has.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard that yet, but I will be checking. But I think you're being just maybe a little too aggressive on this, Mr. Schilling. I would like to see a lot more happen before we make a motion to say, yeah, get more houses in here. It's time to do it.
And what I'd like to come back to, if I may, is the fact that we're not talking about bringing in houses next week. We're talking about doing it a few weeks in the future, but I do need the lead time. And the agreement on these houses is that they be able to leave their present location October 1st. And that will work well as far as finishing the other things that you have requested can happen prior to October 1st and when these houses come in. But I do need to know that the houses will be allowed in. That's what I'm asking for tonight, not to bring them in. And I would entertain some wording to satisfy your needs if that's the case. Back to the street, I do recall the discussion at that early meeting when somebody says we don't have any unpaved streets in town, and I did point out that particular street, which was unpaved and has been since 1956. Because somebody was trying to convince me that that was not a city street, and I have the documentation in my file. So the city has operated one of its own streets, albeit a very short street, but as a gravel street since 1956.
Just a minute, Ron, I'd like to comment on that statement. What you said is right, but the city of Marshall has not put in a new subdivision for homes in the last year with
No.
gravel streets.
No, that's
So,
true.
there was a time when this all came into play.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree, but the statement had been made, it didn't
Yeah.
exist. Right.
Okay. Other input as part of the public hearing, Mr. Gould?
Okay, the short street that Ron is talking about there is the one that's coming off of 7th in front of us. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that the city even knew that that street was theirs. They thought that was all private. We had to fight to get the city to assume that that small area was a city. So that's probably why the pavement got mixed. There was a great big tree in front of our house there. And, when we moved in there and bought the house, we thought, oh, we're not gonna pay all this buku money to have that tree because it was almost like it was out in the middle of that street. Well, it took the city here a while, I went to the court records here, to even assume that small piece of property or that small land there was assumed that it was a city. So I don't even think they knew that that was theirs at that point. And then my second question is, they're okay if pavement is gonna be coming into effect with Ron's situation there, what are the chances that they're gonna pave that small street and put curb and gutter in on our side? We'd kinda like to know what the import that's gonna be, because that's gonna affect our taxes too.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, but you just, I know, Dan, but it's just kind of something to put in your head, you know. Okay, thank you.
Ron says that he'd like some wording that he would take care of the houses to be allowed to bring these other ones, because he has to know by October 1st. I don't think that that should be a driving force to make any kind of decisions. Whatever affects him should not be something. The feeling, I think, of the majority, any of the neighbors, and I've talked to a lot of the neighbors, and they've talked to me, just like Charlie had said that several of them have talked to him, that things need to be done, not just promises made. Things need to be done, whether it be the paving, whether it be the upkeep of the houses, whether it be, cosmetics. And I understand that the insides of the houses, the plumbing, the electric, and that's fine. I mean, I would want that if I was gonna move into a house, but I would not want my outside of my house to look like these houses do. And I don't think that any of you would be happy about that either. Like Peggy said, come and walk. Come along and walk along the back side where I walked last night. Come and walk along the road and stuff and look at these. And you tell me, would you want to look out your back door or your yard where you have a deck that faces that and have to look at that?
Other input as part of the public hearing. Bob?
My name's Robert Carr. I was just wondering, about 10 years ago, we were on this big sidewalk. And I said, no subdivision will ever be built without a sidewalk behind, along all the streets. And so I do something, I gotta put a sidewalk in. And I don't wanna be singled out as being the only guy putting in sidewalks.
Glenn?
Yes, that's for us to take over that public right-of-way, he's required to put in those sidewalks.
Are you sure it doesn't say anything about private development? I mean, are you sure?
We could certainly check to
Well, I
see on
think
the
it needs to be
sidewalk
checked.
portion, we could check on that as well.
Thank you. Any other input as part of the public hearing? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Charlie, second by Mike to close the public hearing. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. You have the request before us. We have all the input from the public hearing. You have the discussion that previously has been had at the public hearing that was not only about the houses, but also the development and also the development agreement.
I would like to make a motion, being Ron said that he's going to get a lot of that stuff completed in the next 10 days, to table this until September 4th, time certain, and at that point, make a decision on it and review the overall look of the place. I know he's got a timeline to move his houses out, but at the same time, if he's so certain all this stuff is going to get done in the next 10 to 14 days, he can continue to make those plans to move those houses and continue to do those things, because he knows it's going to get done anyhow.
Motion is to table action on the request. Motion by Charlie, seconded by Jenny. Discussion on that motion.
Yeah, well, not discussion on the motion per
I
se,
don't
but I
think you can
guess I
discuss
still.
it.
There is no
Motion to table.
discussion. When you table something, it takes precedence and you have to either vote it up or down. It's not debatable, it's non-negotiable.
Motion to table. Call for a vote on that motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, now I got an editorial comment. I want an answer to why, number one, that none of us were ever made aware that it's in the ordinance. We got a development agreement that's contradictory. We need an answer to what is the correct way to proceed, and I would like that information at the next meeting prior to, right after we take it off the table.
We'll do that.
Okay, very good. We'll move on then to agenda item number 4. This will be to consider the vacation of utility easements in the Carr Estates. Once again, we will have a public hearing on this petition. Glenn?
since that time, the property owners have indicated that they wish to split these properties into two large lots. One at this location, this area, and one here. And because of that request, they're looking at requesting us to eliminate this utility easement and to accommodate that construction. One of the items in our requirement was that they establish a utility easement along the south line of lots 1 and 4 and along the east line of lot 4 all the way. That has been accomplished and recorded according to MMU last week. So that's the petition, is to eliminate these two utility easements. There are no existing utilities on those easements. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Any questions? Any input as part of the public hearing? Now, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We'll now consider the resolution that would grant the petition for the vacation of the easement.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Before proceeding further with the agenda, I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. When we return, I'm going to start on agenda item number 7, and then we'll, because you young people have another commitment this evening, then we'll return then to agenda item number 5. So number 7 will be next on the agenda. Okay, at this time, I'm going to reconvene the meeting. We are on agenda item number 7. The agenda item number 7 is a presentation by Adolescents Anonymous, the Teen Center presentation. I'm not sure who is going to be the lead on this presentation. I'll allow you to introduce yourselves and make your presentation.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Alyssa Vandenberg. I just graduated from Marshall High School. I'm Stephanie Johnson, and I'll be a senior this year.
I'm Chris Sanders, and I'll be a junior this year. I'm Eric Kujin, and I'll be a junior.
I'm Lindsay Milling, and I'll be a senior. I'm Christina Pollock, and I'm a sophomore. And I'm Melanie Ritz, and I'll be a sophomore. And we're from Adolescents Anonymous, and we're working together to open a teen center in Marshall. And we'd like to thank Mayor and Council for allowing us to do that. All right, here's the contents of our PowerPoint. I'd like to take a minute to explain our name because to some it may be confusing. Our name is Adolescents Anonymous, and we created this name because we feel we strive towards the same goal that the organization Alcoholics Anonymous does. We are looking to help people free themselves of chemical addictions, and we also included the Anonymous partner name because we don't want to set ourselves above the other high schoolers in our high school. We want to just be teens working with teens for teens and not set ourselves above them, like saying we don't drink, we don't do drugs. We just want to be on the same level as everyone. And our group began in around December, January of this year. We were sponsored by the Lyon County Alliance to take a road trip to the cities to attend an alcoholic convention called Shutting Off the Tap to Teens. We didn't get as much as we hoped to get out of the convention, but we came back and brainstormed and created this group. And this is what we have been doing since then, and we hope you are interested in what we have to say. This is the mission. This is the mission of our group. It's to create a healthy environment explicitly for teens, promoting safe and constructive decisions. Pretty much it's just saying, like, we don't want our peers and our best friends out drinking and doing stuff that's hurting them, and so we feel that this will help them. Our vision is to support teens by giving them their own place in the community to relax and have fun. Adolescents Anonymous, with the help of community developers, will create a center and make it accessible to teens for their needs and wants. Our goals are to provide a center exclusively for teens, minimize substance abuse among young adults, give adolescents more options for entertainment, and
apply a hybrid business model to provide a long-term success, to make available to surrounding communities in addition to our own, and working with teens for teens. With our hybrid business model, we want it to last. Like, we don't want this is something that we get running and it lasts for 2 years and then it falls apart. We're hoping to have a business model that'll be set so year after year we can become self-sustainable. For surrounding communities, we hope to open it up to like Lind and Cottonwood and Minneota. A lot of people will come from around there and hang out with us on weekends and stuff, so this is something that they'll be able to use as well as we will.
The benefits that most communities have seen with the addition of teen centers have been lower crime rates, less truancy, lower rate of chemical experimentation among teens, cost avoidance. They say that for every juvenile that enters the system, by the end of their life, they'll have spent $1 million on that individual. And also, we feel that there will be a better attachment to the community and a higher retention return rate once they go away to college. They'll feel more apt to come back to the community just because of their good experience as a teenager, and they'll feel it's a safe place for their kids to also be raised. This is an organization chart of our basic outline of how our organization will stand, progress through the years. And about the sustainability that we talked about, Alyssa said, we also feel that with our organization of the senior recruits, the freshman recruiting coming in that replace officers is a way to keep it sustainable so we get fresh ideas rolling in every year. And this just explains our succession planning. The seniors will hold the officer positions. The juniors take the places of the graduating seniors as officers each year. Each spring, AA will take applications from freshmen to fill the 3 to 4 openings created by the graduating class. And future plans include the option of recruiting schools other than MHS. We'll look to the Lakeviews, Minneotas, and the other schools around the area to come in, because we want to make this just something that other teens in our area can use, not just Marshall kids. And we took a trip to Winona earlier this year, and there for a day of training, and it was just really insightful. And one of the things that we took away from that trip was the fact that we need to have an adult board, because as kids we don't have the finances to support this center, and we need people to have financial responsibility to cover our project. And on this board we'll have the three officers and 3 directors, and also if you see there is a spot for a student member, and that is our feeling that if we have the student member, it will offer our voice on this board also. Each board member will have a 3-year term, and it will be staggered for 2 expirations each year. The committee assignments, there will be 2 adult board members to each of our 3 already established committees, and they'll act as advisors and just help out with finance, marketing, fundraising, and facility and activities. And we'll have yearly elections of the officers, just as we do with the youth board. And then each spring, AA will take applications to fill the 2 openings from expiring terms. And student members will reflect 1 vote for the AA group on the board. And also with this rotating out the adult members, we feel that will also have the sustainability, because we hope that the adult members will reflect the students, and it will be the parents of who's in the high school, so they know what's going on, what's happening, and they'll be more apt to apply themselves to the board.
Okay, these are the flyers for like the freshman one. We placed it in the freshman locker bank, and basically just gave information to what we were doing and to come and contact Deb Herman or one of the seniors. And then that's our adults flyer. It also just gives basic information about our group, and just that we're trying to get more adults for our adult board. applications for new members. The left one, that was for all the freshmen. We held interviews for them after they turned in the applications. And then the one to the right is for all the adults that would like to apply. If any adults do want to apply after this, you can come talk to us after or talk to Diane.
Okay, this is our work plan. We started out with this at the beginning, once we started working with North Johnson, with Flying County Community Developers. It started with our van ride, as Steph explained, going to the cities, and then we followed through all the steps. You can see the red arrows, that's where we're at right now. We are compiling all of our information that we've researched into a financial model that will help sustain us. We're looking at a few different site options to determine where we want to go so we can set down an exact floor plan. And we are looking at adopting bylaws and articles of incorporation to form our adult board and apply for our own 501c3 status. We are currently under Avera Marshall. They're going to be our fiscal host for right now. And then we hope to apply for our own 501c3 so that we will be self-sustainable.
In the high school this spring, we sent out a survey to all classes, and this is an example of what it is. It's basically, what if we did create this, what would you use it, what would you want in it, and like any other comments that they wanted to put in. And we got a 70% back from that. And then this is a graph to show what each grade level would like for their main activities. And then this is survey just to show how often they would come to this place. It's just weekends was the highest at 37%. And then this is the projected visits of our results. With the 7th and 8th graders, we were guessing about 1,938. And adolescent anonymous projected from the survey do not include youth outside of Marshall, so it doesn't include other towns, and it doesn't include special events like people renting out the space for a youth group or for dances or parties. And then for our survey summary, the top 3 choices that the kids from our survey said were Guitar Hero, laser tag, and pool. And we had a lot of comments being like very excited. When is it gonna get open? Like, we want to go. Let's get this going.
Okay, this is our original floor plan that we drew up. It includes most of the activities that we saw that the teams wanted. We started with a roller rink in the center, which isn't just a roller rink, it's going to be a multi-purpose floor. So it can be used as a roller rink, or we're putting a stage in the corner. So it can be used for band performances, it can be used for concerts, all kinds of things like that, dances. So it won't just be for roller rink, it'll be used for many different things. So it can bring in a lot more income that way. And here we have laser tag. We'd like to run this as a separate business, which goes along with our hybrid business model, because then we can rent that space out separately than the rest of the youth center. And families can come in for a family reunion, or church groups can come in, or just a bunch of friends can come in, anyone can use it, and it would provide another source of income. Along the bottom we have our arcade games, a video game area, pool, air hockey, sofa, just like a lounge area, so that teens who don't want to do anything, just want to hang out like they would at home, can just come and hang out without their siblings or their parents hanging around them. And then we also are including a concession area, so it'll be just like going to McDonald's, except you can do all kinds of things there too also. Here's our second draft of our floor plan. This is actually built to an existing building. or the things of that idea. And, yeah, as I mentioned, this is built to an existing building already. This slide shows our estimated startup cost as of 5/15/07. This is just what it would cost to get the place up and running, and we've come to the total of $333,050. We included a down payment of $60,000 based on a $600,000 building. And some of the other things we included were the lounge area, the conversion costs, things like that. This is a few breakdowns of where we got those estimates. We did research and talked to people in those businesses to come up with these numbers. As you can see, we included sofas, a projection TV, bag chairs, tables, and chairs in the lounge area, which comes to a total of $7,900. And we are hoping with like the lounge area or different aspects of the place that we can include the high school and the different classes in it. Like the art class could maybe paint drawings for the walls, or the shop class could build tables or chairs to include in our center, so that everyone's involved and you can go there and say, oh, here's my drawing I made, and show all your friends and everything, so that everyone's tied into the place. Like Chris mentioned, we took a trip to Winona earlier last month. We went to the Roxall Youth Center there. They've been up and running for 8 years, and they are kind of like our big brother in this process. We received a YAR grant in May, which allowed us to go to Winona and get a full day of training, and also the entire booklet, which includes all of the things they use to get up and running, their all their income summaries. This is an example of one for the fiscal year 2007-2008, and we're hoping to base ours off theirs so that we know there's a possibility of it working, because we're basing it on an existing model that works. This is an example of their expense statement for the 07-08 fiscal year, and as you can see, we are planning to base ours on theirs also, because we know that it works. And then last is a budget expense summary, and same goes for that one.
Okay, this is a summary of what we just went over. We feel that what we are trying to do is a missing piece to Marshall and the surrounding communities. After starting this project, we learned that according to a comprehensive study done by the City of Marshall in 2006, a teen center is needed. It's something that would benefit our community greatly. Better teenage experience yields greater likelihood for adult success in our community. We feel that if we have this and students have a good time in Marshall, they'll want to return to Marshall and raise their families here, and that is helping. The survey indicates the center will be well used. AA is learning from successful models so that we know it won't flop. We are now working to assign our adult board and obtain our 501c3 status.
We'd now like to open this up for any questions.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. One question would be, I know that you've been working on this for quite some time, and you have had this presentation, and you've refined this presentation. You've done it to a number of groups. How many groups have you met with so far? Estimate.
About 8 different groups we presented to.
Very good. Questions?
It's not a question, but this is the second time I'm on the Lyon County Development Court Board, and it was a smaller number of you at that one. But I have to commend you for the time and effort that you put into this.
And also the vision. Yeah,
Very good.
I've heard it before too.
Other questions? If not, thank you very much. I moved you up on the agenda because I know a number of you have marching band practice that you're about an hour late for, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the original agenda order, and we're on agenda item number 5. This is the award of the contract for the North 3rd Street Reconstruction Bridge Replacement Project. We have a resolution declaring the cost to be assessed in order in preparation of the proposed assessment, resolution calling for a hearing on the proposed assessment, the resolution declaring the intent regarding the reimbursement of the expenditures with the proceeds from tax exempt bonds, the resolution that would accept the bid to award the contract, and finally, the resolution to finance the cost in excess of the bridge bonding grant. Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Several items on this one, but probably the most significant one is the activity level that the state, through its bridge bonding, decided to participate in. And if you remember our estimates for this project, we had about $657,000 of bridge bonding that was committed to by the state. And that meant that we had to use about $770,000 worth of our municipal state aid account. And every time I talk to the state offices, they indicated they couldn't give me any better numbers than that until we decided to bid the project and recommend an award. So when our bids came in, they came in higher than expected, and I was expecting that our percentage of the payment then too would also go up. And the issues that you have in front of you, and I want to kind of talk about the whole process. We did go through the bidding process, and we received bids, and the apparent low bidder at the time that we opened the bids, I did ask for documentation of experience with this type of project, because it is fairly complicated, and it's not only its construction of the serpentine box culvert system that we're installing, but primarily the retaining wall structures downstream from it. And in that review, we found, and the contractor also found, that he could not acquire a subcontractor with enough experience to convince us that we should award the contract to him. So at that point in time, we look at the second low bidder. We call it, in this case, the low responsible bidder. And that amount is shown also in one of the documents for the accepting bid tonight. Back to this original assessment. During the process, we had the two bids that we were considering, and we did ask the state to take a look at both of them to give us an idea of what impact it may have awarding it to either of the two bidders. And they respectfully declined to say, because their offer of participation would be made only upon the recommendation for the apparent, the low responsible bidder. So going through that procedure, we are recommending the award go to RNG Construction Company in the amount shown. But once we sent that in, MinDOT always told me over the phone that we're going to treat you as good as we can. And you never know what that really means. Especially in the process, there was the bridge collapse in Minneapolis. That was a concern of ours, that they may take all of that money for those improvements. So when we sent in the amount, we got a letter back. And the letter said $1,175,905.50. Well, $500,000 more than what we were expecting. And they reduced the municipal state aid that we were required to use on the project. And then we freed that up for our future projects that you already know that we have coming in Windstar Street and Clarice Avenue and our upcoming development projects. So, all in all, we have good news on the project. The contractor has been notified of a potential award, apparent low responsible bidder, and is expecting, if approved, to begin the project this fall to complete the 3rd Street
questions for Glenn in general? If not the specific actions, we will take action on or entertain action on. First would be the resolution declaring the cost to be assessed in order in the preparation of the proposed assessment. You have that resolution before you, or are there questions about that resolution?
I'd move that resolution.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion?
Yes, on number one, we got dollar amounts to put in, plug in.
We don't have the specific dollar amounts, we could use the ones on the first page, but I've been trying to ascertain the actual amounts to be assessed. Mike, I need to work with you on those.
I guess let's use what we have available to us, because that can be changed. Is that correct?
Yes. It will be less than what's shown on the previous page.
Other questions on the motion for the resolution? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. The second action would be the resolution for the hearing on the proposed assessment. Once again, that's on 5-3. It's not on 5-3.
No.
Are there questions about the resolution for the hearing on the proposed assessment?
Move that resolution.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike for the resolution calling for the hearing. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Third action would be to consider the resolution declaring the official intent regarding the reimbursement of the expenditures with the proceeds of tax exempt bond. That is on 5-3. Are there any questions?
Mayor, can I clarify that one? It's a safety valve resolution. It is not our intent to issue $2 million in bonds for that with the bridge bonding and the state aid. We're gonna have to figure out the local share from probably wastewater and 429. But we're gonna have to also figure out our cash flow capabilities to finance the project, because there's a certain cash flow that we're able to get from the state once Glenn enters into the contracts. But it is not our intent, but it's a safety valve backup should ever we have to come back and do that. So that's why you see it at that level, but it is not our intent to bond for that.
You knew I was gonna ask that question.
I just had a wild guess that you might ask that question. But it's a safety valve, because once we enter into a contract and start that work, we can't come back and undo that and decide we need to finance it a different way later on. So it's a safety valve.
One more comment maybe on the funding too. The bridge bonding is repaid to us after the construction goes on, just like a payment to contractors. The municipal state aid is a 95% upfront payment as soon as the contract is awarded. So that's what Mike is talking about too, is trying to work with those dollar amounts and getting the process of financing and reimbursement through the state process, because they're both different.
Other questions on that resolution?
I'd move the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. The fourth action then would be consider the resolution accepting the bid, the award of the contract, authorizing entering into the agreement with RNG Construction. Questions on the low responsible bid as recommended?
Just to make, Glenn, did the low bidder withdraw their bid, or have you had discussions with them about that?
Yes, I have, and rather than the withdrawal of the bid, we have decided to not award it to the low bidder and to award the bid to the low responsible bidder. Now, it seems like it might be a play on words, but it is not a withdrawal of the bid. It is a recommendation to council to award to the low responsible bidder, RNG Construction, which is the second low bidder on the project.
Right, and you think you've done your homework on this so that you can substantiate and justify that responsible
Yes, sir.
bid requirement?
We've done that recently on some other stuff too.
Yes, sir.
But the minutes should reflect the reason that we're not going with the low bidder and that we're going to the lowest responsible bidder on the basis of what Glenn recommended.
And the basis would be that I'm recommending to you that the low bidder does not have the expertise necessary to complete the project in conformance with our plans and specifications.
I'll make that a motion. Jane, you got that?
Motion by Dan for the
Second.
resolution, seconded
Second.
by Charlie. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Final action then here would be the resolution to finance the cost in excess of the bridge bonding grant as required by MnDOT. You have that resolution that is on the reverse side of 5-4. Questions on the resolution? If not, is there a motion?
Move the resolution.
Motion by Mike, second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Glenn. Anything more on this?
Okay, I missed one for the hearing on the proposed assessment. We're fine,
Okay,
as long as that was passed.
that was. Agenda item number 6 is the consent agenda. We have 5 items for action on the consent agenda. We have a temporary on-sale liquor license for Southwest Minnesota State University. Second item would be a temporary on-sale liquor license for Southwest State University Foundation. Third would be the Southwest West Central Cooperative City, County, other governmental agencies, Group Insurance Pool Designation Authority. Fourth would be to consider the authorization to advertise for a boom truck for the street department. Fifth are the bills and project payments. And then for information purposes are the building permits that have been previously approved by city staff. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants removed for purposes of separate discussion?
E,
Pardon me?
E,
Any other item? If not, is there a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mike, seconded by Dan. Discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 6E, the bills and project payments.
I only got one question, and I guess, I don't want to make a big, long deal out of it, because it's not as big deal as it thinks, but on the page E, 6E10, there was a payment, the fourth payment that we made out was a contribution to a P-flag organization. Actually, it was paid to a person that give a contribution the way it looks. I'd like to have a clarification of that.
What page was that, Charlie?
It looks like
6E10.
6E10. Mike, can you provide a report back? This apparently is from the Human Rights Commission. If not at this time, at a future meeting too. Oh, you have it?
The payment was made to an individual that's on the Human Rights Commission. And the letter that came with the request for payment was, it's a $10 to co-sponsor the popcorn and goodwill giveaway on August 23rd. The organization, PFL AG, it's parents, families, and friends of lesbians and gays. Made 2 information presentations to Marshall, Human Rights Commission, with new members. It may be a good time for another visit. Our Speakers Bureau presents to many groups, colleges, universities, churches, and et cetera. And they basically made a donation and submitted a request for reimbursement.
Well, I'd just like in the future that any morally or politically sensitive donations that are given to politically or morally sensitive organizations would come before the council rather than just approved. That would be, something that we need to have something in the future to look at as a council. But that's just my thought, that we should probably do that as a council rather than.
Who approved that, Tom?
It was signed by one of the Human Rights Committee members, and then
Apparently okayed in my office.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, in the minutes of the Human Rights Commission that we just received tonight, that we hadn't seen before, dated Monday, July 23rd, item 5B addresses. I don't know if that's a explanation, but it was in the minutes, the unapproved minutes. We had,
You're the only one that has this.
they had a booth at the county fair and asked if Human Rights Commission would participate. After discussion, we decided to do a one-page flyer with the newspaper article for them to distribute at their booth. So that's,
Okay, I would entertain a motion to either approve the bills in their entirety or approve the bills.
I'd
with
make a
that
motion to
exclusion.
approve the bills in their entirety, but at the same time, I'd ask that we look at some kind of a policy down the line that would deal with that issue.
I'll second that.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. We're on agenda item number 8. This would be consider the request of Matthew Cedarstrom and Hunter Fennell for a variance adjustment permit to construct an addition to the dwelling with a side yard less than required by ordinance in an R1 one-family resident district. The location is 605 Jefferson Circle. This was considered by the Planning Commission at their meeting last week. Planning Commission is recommending denial. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Dale Howe is here. He did present this to the Planning Commission. I would ask that he come up and give you a summary of the request.
Thank you, Mr. Council. I would like to first state that this is a rear yard variance in lieu of side yard variance. This is the request of Mr. Fennell and Mr. Cedarstrom to construct an addition onto the dwelling that would result in a rear yard of 20 foot in lieu of 30 foot as required. I'd like to explain that the method that the rear yard has been calculated. The rear yard on a lot is 25% of the lot depth. In this case, we have a irregular shaped lot that has a curved front on it. The rear yard would change, required rear yard would change as each location on the lot is measured from the center of the circle to that rear property point, reducing that distance from the center of the circle through that point, subtracting the street right-of-way, and then taking that result as the lot depth, and 25% of the lot depth would be required. In this particular case, the closest point was determined to be 30 foot, a 30-foot required rear yard. The closest point of the proposed addition would result in 20-foot rear yard. So it would be about a 10-foot variance at this closest point. The addition will not go any closer than code requires the 5 foot on the sideline. I believe in your packet there are plans and drawings showing the proposed addition. The Planning Commission did recommend that this variance request be denied.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Mike, you were the representative from the council at the Planning Commission. Any comments you want to add?
Yes, I was at the Planning Commission meeting for Larry Doom, and they did not make a motion to deny. They made two motions, one to deny, which did not pass, one to approve that did not pass. Now, as the council is aware, we've made two recent changes to our zoning code. One about additional size, and we tied it to lot size. And the other time,
I thought that's the wrong property.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
You're talking about on Elaine Street.
This one was voted for denial.
Right.
okay,
Number 8, one.
okay, but this is for, man, okay, I'm sorry. But I guess looking at it, the zoning that we have, there is nothing magical about 20%, 30%, 5 feet, whatever. And I have been arguing for years, for the benefit of the newer council people, against our using undue hardship as the test. At the time, I think we need to use some logic, we need to use some reasonableness, and some common sense. And in this case, because of the odd size shape of the lot, if they moved it forward, then they're gonna be out of variance with the side yard variance because of the shape of the lot. They do not want to make it smaller because if you read the minutes of the planning commission, their second-story addition would be taking up a lot by truss rafters, and the room would be very small. If you look at the overhead map, it is not going to destroy that neighborhood to put this addition on the back. And I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it.
Motion to approve made by Mike. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mike. Discussion.
I'd like to ask Dale a question about, in the back there, how close is this addition gonna come to that dog kennel shed that's in the backyard there? If you, what kind of gap would be between those two? I'm just trying to get an idea what their backyard would look like without.
I believe that the shed is very close to the rear property line. I would estimate 12, 15 feet.
Between the two?
But because it is a shed, it could be moved to the other side
Well, I
of
think
the
the
lot.
kennel's a concrete pour.
Well, it could still be moved, the kennel. I mean, I think we just need to use some logic, reasonable, and common sense here, and there is plenty of space on that property with not violating the total square footage of building versus lot size. It's gonna be definitely an improvement to that property. They really have no other choice to get a double garage of a sufficient size unless we grant this variance.
Other discussion on the motion?
I don't know, I guess I think it might devalue the property as a resident with a family. I know it was a huge consideration for us, the size of our backyard, besides the fact we seem to have trains running through the backyard. But we wanted to have an extra long backyard for the place for our kids.
Then as a purchaser, I wouldn't buy that piece of property.
No, I wouldn't.
Other discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for a vote on that motion. The motion is to approve. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Call for a show of hands on that motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Jane, you have the vote. Motion passes. Agenda item number 9. Consider the request of Doug and Helen Devereaux for a variance adjustment permit to construct a garage addition with a side yard of less than required by ordinance in a R1 one-family resident district. The location is 509 Elaine Avenue. Once again, this was considered by the Planning Commission. It comes to the council without a recommendation. Go ahead, Dale.
This dwelling is located on Elaine Avenue. It is Allen Avenue that occurs after this next lot. The existing dwelling is located 8 feet from the property line. And the request is for a 1
Thank you, Glenn, or thank you, Dale. Comments from the planning commission?
Well, again, if you read the minutes, there was a lot of discussion pertaining to this item. I have gone and looked at the property, I met with the property owner, I've looked at the steps that are basically attached to the house, both on the exterior and the interior. And changing the steps 90 degrees, basically you'd have to change the door too, because you go up, to walk up onto the landing and not be able to open the screen door. He's gotten letters from the neighbors, if that house next door faces Elaine, but it's more elongated on the lot on to Elm Street, so there is it's almost like a backyard to them. And again, the undue hardship, if I had two subcompact cars, I wouldn't have a problem. But the present homeowner happens to drive a great big pickup, and they have a larger car. And what he's saying is true. It's very difficult to get in and out. I'm not in favor of a 7-foot wide addition. I would like to see him agree to a 6-foot, and my reason is I don't want the overhang on the roof right on the property line. Would you be amenable to that? I will make a motion that we grant the variance for a 6-foot wide addition onto his garage.
Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Dan. Discussion on the motion.
I guess I want to ask Dale a question about, the house is there, it says it faces Elaine, but actually, the way the house is kind of set up, kind of faces Allen Street,
The neighboring.
or sure,
The neighbors.
on the west side.
Yes, neighbor's house.
That faces. This one does, or is there another house?
This house faces Elaine Avenue.
Okay.
This is Elaine Avenue address. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the house to the west.
There's no one more house before? Okay.
I'm sorry, say again.
I said that this house here is not sitting on a corner.
No.
No.
It's this one,
One lot from the corner.
the neighbor's house.
Correct.
Okay.
And the one on the corner is narrower, longer. It's almost like the side is almost like a backyard, or that's used, I think, like a backyard. Because they had a patio or,
It's owned by REM, and REM says that they're all right with the,
That's what the letter states.
okay.
Glenn, excuse me, Dale, you probably couldn't build the house that's on Allen, you probably couldn't put that house on a lot today, could you, with today's setbacks?
I would say that dwelling is conforming, but I have not measured it. It looks conforming.
but again, the common sense part, if you look at the pictures that were provided, the space between the edge of it, end of the garage and that house next door, that does look similar to the back of a house. To get a 1 or 2 foot addition and have to, or to hammer out or sledgehammer out that step, both in the garage and the inside of the house, is not gonna be a easy task. And it does violate, in essence, the step height.
That's one thing that was brought up. I think the owner too is here to say that you are going to change out that entire step system because the rise of those steps was significantly higher than code, and both those steps would be coming out, and code steps would be going back in. Is that my understanding?
Not quite.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's good to ask.
I am Doug Devereaux with Defending Lane, and Glenn said to hammer out, our plan is to build over those steps, not to hammer out. That's the first thing I want to get straight, because that's the reason we're here. And the other reason is, on the upper step, there's a walk door. We'd like to move the walk door to the sidewalk level. That's the one reason we're looking for the 7 feet 6. Our roof line will not be over the neighbor's line
converting them to code.
Right, exactly. Well, I wanted,
Okay.
and the other reason, if, to go like Dale said, to add the 3 feet, we'd only have a net gain of 1 foot. Because you have to add 2 to the steps, you're gonna add 3 to the whole garage, you're gonna gain 1 foot. It isn't worth the effort.
And then you can't move your door.
Can't move your door. Even, we would like to put an 18-foot door in, along with the walk door at this 7 foot 6 inches. We'll have plenty of room for both. It's gonna be really, really tight at 6 feet.
The reason I said the 6 feet is the memo here says that the existing west wall is 8 feet from the property line.
Well, it's, according to Brian, and he and I measured it, it's 8'6". And you can, you know, he was out there probably 10 days ago, and it is 8'6" to the lot line.
8'6".
Yep, from our foundation to the lot line.
Can you confirm that too, Dale?
We are not land surveyors, so it is always our intent to fall on the safe side. If there's a measurement between, we're going to take what we believe is comfortable, that will not put the value of the property in jeopardy, be conservative, so that no one gets into trouble with something that we do. So our measurement was conservative. It could be 8'6". Maybe it's not, but we know it's a mistake.
But Doug, you said you could live with a 6 foot.
Well, I'd be a lot happier. I'll compromise. I'll go to 6'6". It isn't much, okay? We're talking about $300,000 on a community center. This, you know, and even if we would go the whole 7'6", there still is 15 feet 8 inches between would be our new wall and the rim house.
Your overhang's gonna be 1 foot?
Our overhang is 1 foot.
Yeah, we did verify that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Dale?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make the statement that the overhang would not be able to project beyond the wall of the dwelling because you're not permitted to have an overhang within 2 foot, 6 inches of the side yard. So if there's a 1 foot variance, that would be the edge of the overhang.
Then you do away with the overhang.
So what?
Do away with the overhang.
Guess I could live with it.
Okay. Everybody clear on what the motion is?
Not really. 6 feet.
That's what the motion is. Discussion on the motion. Now I'm gonna call for a vote on the motion. The motion is to allow the variance at 6 feet. Discussion. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item number 10 is a presentation on the 2007 Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities positions and the legislative outcomes. With us tonight is Tim Flaherty, representing the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tim Flaherty. I'm with the firm of Flaherty and Hood, and I've represented the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities for over 20 years. I'm here tonight to give you a very brief report on the legislative session and some of the issues coming up for the next session, and also take any questions you might have about the talked about special session. First thing in your packets should have been this little report, and I'm not going to go through it in great detail. I would like to call your attention to the back page where we have listed the board of directors, and I'd like to point out that Mike Johnson has served on the board this past year, and he has been reappointed for this next year, and we're very happy that he has been participating on the board. Also, Councilmember Bodenheimer has attended several of our conferences and is participating on that. If any of the other council people, new council people or others, want to join any of our committees, they're listed there, the LJN Property Tax Committee, Annexation, Environment, and Transportation. And They operate through telephone conference calls, make decisions for the organization, and help with the lobbying program. So I'm going to run right to the big issue, which is the property tax relief, local government aid issue. In your packets, you had a graph, and we're replacing that with a new graph tonight because we've had new numbers since it just came out the last week. What I want to do is just call your attention to this. The coalition did have a property tax relief local government aid bill this last session. We pushed it along. You can see you would have had about a $400,000 increase in local government aid if it had passed. You can see that the House passed a bill that was lower than what we had proposed, almost a $200,000 increase for the city. The Senate had proposed a bill with about a $700,000 increase, and the legislature passed with really bipartisan support by a large majority a tax bill that would have provided you with over a $200,000 increase. That tax bill was vetoed. If that tax bill had not been vetoed, you would be receiving $320,000 more in local government aid than you are projected to get now. Many of the cities, I've been going around and meeting with various of the cities, and generally it's going to cause property tax increases of 10 to 15% in most of our cities. There has been, the reason the tax bill was vetoed was the governor objected to a provision in it that would have required the budget forecast, not the budget, but the budget forecast to go up by inflation for the spending side. It is our position in the coalition that that is a policy that should be passed. Does not put the budget on autopilot like some are saying, but it does balance out. The way the state's revenue forecast is done, it is increased for inflation, and prior to 2003, the expenditures were also increased by inflation, and so that would give a true picture of the state finances. Having said that, we were against the legislature putting the inflation factor into the tax bill, which then drew the governor to veto it. So, long story short, what happened. We are now asking the legislative leaders and the governor to call a special session and pass the tax bill without that inflation factor. We don't think that should be a big enough factor to take down the whole tax bill. So that's one of our positions on the special session, and when I cover transportation, we'll cover the other. The other issues that I'd just like to cover for a minute are on this one page that should be in your folder. It covers the coalition positions are on the left side and what the outcome was on the right side. And I just covered LGN property taxes. The environment is another issue that we work on. This session we had a successful program. We really stopped the state, at least until May 1st, from putting in an arbitrary regulation relating to phosphorus, and we also supported and were able to keep in law a provision that is good for economic growth in greater Minnesota, and this position was also upheld by the Supreme Court that ruled after the session that this way of handling discharges by wastewater plants was acceptable. So the environment program went well. Transportation, of course, we supported, and we have for years supported a gas tax increase, provided that the money was distributed fairly to the metro and greater Minnesota. Of course, the legislature did pass a bill. It passed by 90 votes in the House, which is actually enough to override a veto. And it also passed in the Senate by 47 votes. Bipartisan bill. It also was vetoed by the governor. And so that did not become law. And our position now is they should have a special session to repass that bill, that same transportation bill, which provided for a gas tax increase, and in our view, a fair allocation of revenues between the metropolitan area and Greater Minnesota. So we're waiting to hear to see whether there will be a special session, and I'll answer the question before I get it. I think it's quite unlikely there will be a special session for either the tax bill or the transportation bill. That's unfortunate. We think they should pass a comprehensive transportation bill, and they should do it quickly, and we think they should pass a tax bill to provide the property tax relief that we think has been demonstrated as needed. Annexation is the last issue we worked on, and this year it was a very quiet year on annexation, but we did make one change that's favorable for cities. That is for a landowner that's adjacent to the city, if he wants to come into the city, wants to be annexed into the city, if he has 120 acres or less, he can come into the city if the city wants him. And that provision had been 60 acres. Landowner with 60 acres could come into the city, so we increased it to 120 acres. Many of the cities use that. It means you don't have to go through a contested case and spend a lot of money on attorney's fees and spend a lot of time on it. So those were the coalition programs this year. Those were the outcomes. I think next session we have one very big issue on our plate, and that is the local government aid formula. The formula is the way that the state distributes out about $450 million out to the cities in the state for property tax relief. And the metropolitan area cities think that they should be getting more of that $450 million than they do now, a bigger share. We don't think so, so there is some controversy there. We have said and taken a position at our fall conference that we are willing to evaluate the formula and make changes that we think are reasonable and defensible based on the purpose for which LGA was created, and that purpose is to help equalize for lower tax bases around the state, lower taxable wealth. So that will be a very big issue next session. And I think maybe I would just stand for any questions now. If anybody has any questions about LGA or anything else that the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities does.
Thank you, Tim. We'll open it up for questions. If not, thank you very much. I would acknowledge that, certainly while time is limited tonight, certainly you provide us a lot of information, throughout the year, especially during the legislative season at other times too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 11 is from the Public Safety Department. We have two items. One would be the patrol subscription renewal with the League of Minnesota Cities, as well as the authorization for out-of-state travel. Rob?
We started the subscription to this 3 months ago, but they only had a 6-month option, so some of it was back dates, but it's on an annual basis, so this would be for the next 12 months. And it's online, so I guess I didn't dwell on it a lot since we gave it to you, but just some of the topics that they cover, Fourth Amendment issues, responding to domestics, constitutional issues, juvenile interrogation, searches of the person, traffic stops, investigation on the scene, liability and pursuit, legal use or use of force issues, and so on and so forth. So it's fairly technical stuff that we're not able to get for the officers otherwise, and it's done in a way that minimizes the drain on resources. They can do it right, in the building, and so we think it's, a
questions for Rob? Is there a motion to approve this renewal?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Second item is that you're requesting out-of-state travel authorization for the Police Department records clerk to attend training out of state.
Yes, this is something we're doing in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department. They're sending their records clerk to Suminta, also the out-of-state travel approval. It's something, it's just with the record system that we've got, it's a Windows-based system, but most everyone's experience was with the older AS400 environment. And just where we've talked casually to other users, Mankato has a system. They're just recommending that they go to the horse's mouth to the actual company to do it. And of course, being software, it's one of the few areas that's more expensive than law enforcement stuff, public safety, so.
Okay, questions for Rob?
Existing money in the budget to cover this?
Take a hit, yeah, I mean, I had originally hoped to go to the LEC fund, but Mike said that's just for operating, or for equipment operations, but anyhow, yes, we can take this out of the training budget.
Move the approval of the out-of-state travel authorization.
Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 12, from the wastewater treatment facility, the supervisory control and data acquisition system proposal. Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We've got a proposal in front of you that's based upon a long process that we would have liked to have replaced some of our controls years ago. And in the process of our new construction, we always set aside about 5% of the bid for contingencies. In this case, we held the contingencies down to a minor level and wish to bring this process forward to you at this time, being the money might be available. Bob Van Moore is here from wastewater department to touch base a little bit on the proposal, as well as he brought also a representative of the company that we're recommending for this SCADA control process. Bob?
Good evening. I do have Bruce Worth, the president of Control Automatic Systems Control Company. They are a control integrator, and they have been for several years. And this is something that you'll see in most water and wastewater treatment plants already. It's not a cheap system, but it's basically what it does is it monitor. We can monitor and limited controls, but of all the processes, all the equipment, the alarm system is there. If anything alarms comes back, tells us. It's all computer operated. Along with this, we're hoping that we can, as you know, we're staffed 24 hours a day. We're hoping that we could eliminate a midnight shift in the future. If we have the alarming capability, we would have somebody on call that could come in and they could physically monitor the treatment plant from home on a laptop computer. If it's a situation where they'd have to come in, they could certainly come in at that time and do it. We don't have full control of all the pumps starting and stopping and different equipment like that. The system is expandable to that in the future if we would ever want to go that far, but at this point, I don't really see it. But with the money available, I thought it'd be a perfect time to bring it in. We do have requirements from the MPC that we have to track and graph a lot of our data, and right now the system that we have is only about half functional. So it's time that we need to spend money to replace that one, or spend a lot of money on an ancient system and then try to get that up and operating again. So.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Questions for Bob and or Glenn?
I'll make a motion, we approve the new system.
Motion by Dan, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Bob.
One other item, if I could.
Yes.
Bob, if you could just touch base just for a minute on the storm that we had over the weekend. and the changes to what you received at wastewater due to recent improvement projects?
As you know, we've had 4.5 inches of rain over the weekend. Normally, we would see our flows probably double on a rainfall like that. It did occur over the weekend, but we've only seen our flows come up probably 10% of what it is. I'm not sure if that's contributed to some of the sewer replacement projects we've been doing downtown and Tree Street areas and stuff like that, but it was I know it was awful dry, but a 4.5 inch rain, that was a substantial amount. We handled it with no issues at all, so it's, I think we're seeing some improvements out there in the collection systems.
Very
Well,
good.
the North Sixth Street River crossing has to make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Filtration.
That helps another too.
Yeah.
Any issues with sewer backups?
None noted at all, nothing at all, so.
Did you have to use the EQ basin at all?
Actually, the EQ basin did not even come into play on this rainfall.
Wow.
That's
Really
something
unbelievable.
that we've
Very good.
had probably half full by the time rainfall of that event, so. Some very good improvements. I don't know if you've been contacted or not, but you're all invited for a tour of the treatment plant with the new projects completed now. We'd like to schedule a time for you guys, councilmen, to come out and look at it.
Fat shoot on Wednesday, and we're trying to get the other one scheduled for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, agenda item number 13, consider the resolution authorizing the execution of the MnDOT agreement for the airport improvement, excluding the land acquisition, and authorization to award the proposal for the maintenance project on the asphalt. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is another one that we asked for early on. There wasn't funds available. They said, ask again later in the year. We might have something available for you. And so we asked again, and they found some money to do it. It's at the 70% state, 30% local level. We're certainly pleased about that. It is included in our budget. We would recommend approval.
And the low responsible bidder has the capabilities to do the
Yes,
project?
it was out by quotations, and that low quote person was approved by MnDOT.
Okay, very good. Questions?
Would that be done yet, maybe this year?
It will be done yet this year.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 14, 2 items from the Public Improvement Committee. First item would be the striping and traffic control. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one, I'll try to explain fairly briefly, and council members, if you want to chime in as we go. We looked at several locations where we might want to do some traffic control changes. One of them was on Saratoga Street. We've received several calls from property owners along Saratoga requesting that now that the high school is gone from that location, that it be freed up again for parking on their side of the street. We looked at the entire area, and I'll see how these are put in this format for you, but I might jump around just a little bit. This is the fire hall. This is the Tiger Lake. And we're trying to allow some parking along the residential side of South Saratoga Street. No parking all the way, and you'll see this in the future slide, but really all the way from West College Drive along this side, all the way down, all the way to Southview. Here, if you want to continue with me along here, there would be no parking along this side. We provide right turns straight through, and then when we got down to C Street in this area, then we took into account the future access to a potential library location. So then here we start with left turn lanes all the way down to accommodate these drives for the middle school. And then when you get down to this location, we recommend prohibiting parking along here as well. If there's a large parking lot here, we do allow some parking along Southview, but Saratoga Street, we're recommending no parking concern by several citizens about north and northwestbound South First Street people coming in conflict with eastbound Greeley Street people with no traffic control at this location to take care of either of them. And in looking at the intersection, we believe that the best location then is to have, for traffic control, is to allow Greeley Street to be the through street and to stop South First Street at this location. So that would be a change at this location, and in that recommendation that came from PI&T, an oversized stop sign would be installed initially. There would be what we call candlesticks, those red reflectorized strips that go on the front face of that, and then we put some red flags that come out there to accentuate the stop sign. I believe that's all. If you have any questions on
Glenn,
any of those.
Glenn, back to the Saratoga Street recommendation. You're also recommending that parking be allowed on, I'll call it the resident side, the west side, where currently it's not.
That is correct, because when the high school was there,
Right.
all the traffic was pushed over to the residential side.
Comments from the Public Improvement Committee?
Looks like a good plan.
We agreed with it.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie for the actions for the striping, the traffic control as recommended by the Public Improvement and Transportation Committee to include Saratoga Street and Greeley Street. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. Glenn, when would the traffic signage on Greeley Street and First Street, when would that change occur?
We'd like to do that before school opens. I'll have to, it's weather permitting, I'll have to coordinate that with the street department to be doing the work as well. We'd also like to get out some public information in the newspaper and on our channel, of course, concerning those changes. One more item, also, you'll see in your notes that we will be restriping the intersections of Channel Parkway and Trunk Highways 19 and 59. Right now, both of them are T intersections. They both currently have 2 left turn lanes and 1 right turn lane. It's confusing sometimes when people pull up and don't know really what they should do when they get there, so we'll accommodate that, and that doesn't take an action on your part, but we wanted to discuss it with PI&T, and we did. So you'll see some changes at that location as well for defining 1 right turn lane, 1 left turn lane, and getting them channeled into those directions when they get to that intersection.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. The other action, which I'm not sure it takes action from the council, but that the Public Improvement and Transportation Committee did refer the discussion of the naming of the downtown parking lots to the Green Space Committee. Dan or Charlie, any comments you want to make on that?
Dan can.
No, Glenn and I kind of talked about it, and we kind of felt too that it was more in the downtown arena, so we thought we'd bring it to green space.
I'm not a naming kind of guy.
Okay, any questions on that? If not, we'll move on then to agenda item number 15, consider authorization to enter into the agreement with Flexible Benefit Administration Incorporated for the administration of the city's health insurance co-insurance program. Tom Melbrook, City Finance Director, City Clerk.
Included in your packets was a memo addressing this issue. Basically, January 1st of 2007, we entered into an agreement with TASC, Toll Administrative Services Corporation, to administer the city's flex spending program and the city's health insurance co-insurance program. The reason we went with TASC was that they had purchased Legal Systems, who were at the previous company that handled the flex spending program, and discussing the health insurance co-insurance administration had told us that prior to us meeting with Steve. And in talking to Steve about the problems we were having, we finally got to the point saying that, there's just so many complexities here and problems that we're encountering that we would like to cancel the agreement. And he just about jumped up and cheered because he was almost tempted to tell us that he didn't want to work with the program anymore either. So it was kind of a mutual agreement to terminate the agreement with them and go back to Flex Benefits and have them administer the program for the co-insurance. I guess that's basically what we're asking for at this time, is to cancel the arrangement with Task for the administration of the co-insurance program and go back to Flex Benefits. Task will continue to do the Flex Spending program, which is more of their expertise than working with the co-insurance program.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Questions for Tom?
Approximately, what's the increase in cost?
I think it's about $6.50 per employee
Per year?
per month.
Do make a difference?
Yes, it does. And we knew that when we went into this, that there would be a savings, but the savings just don't outweigh the problems that we were encountering with them, and they realized that it was more than they could deal with also.
But there is money in the budget to pick it up.
Well, there will be.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, you have the recommendation. I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie, to enter into the agreement with Flex Benefit Administration for the administration as well as the cancellation of the previous agreement. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 16A was the item that was added to the agenda. This will be considered by the HRA since it is an action of the HRA. It was added to the agenda, Dan, I believe, because it was discussed by the EDA at their meeting this past week, being recommended to the city and for information purposes. Mike, you want to give the general overview of?
Aren't we doing item 16? Which
Yes,
is the,
okay, we'll do agenda item number 16. We'll do 16 first. Sorry, I was out of order. Agenda item number 16, authorize the assignment of the option contract from the City of Marshall to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Mark, are you going to?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
I thought it was the next one you were talking about. As I explained in your memo, that on an action you took in July, that the council adopted resolution number 2997, determining the necessity of an industrial park project and an authority. And authorizing acquisition instead of authority, excuse me, that's a typo. Authorizing the acquisition of certain lands and interest therein for the purpose of the industrial park development. You took action to approve that, and as part of that, accepted an assignment of an option contract from the Marshall Industries Foundation to the City of Marshall. Historically, in most previous actions that the city's been involved with, ownership of industrial property and the spending authority for what would be necessary to acquire this industrial park has typically resided in the Housing and Redevelopment Authority for the council. So in consultation with the city attorney, what we've prepared and have before you tonight is the formal action where you would authorize the assignment of that option, even though it's within the city, it's from the city council or city element to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which is where the authority for all the tax increment plans and the actions will reside. So the action tonight is just to simply assign that from the city to the HRA, Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which you also sit as.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Charlie, to approve the resolution approving the assignment of the agreement from the City of Marshall to the City of Marshall Housing Redevelopment Authority. Discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Now we're on 16A. This is the discussion of the purchase agreement of the acquisition of the property in the industrial park, second edition from Pantera. This, Mark, if you'd want to come forward and discuss this. This is the property that had been sold to DAC at one time. It's now being proposed to sell back to the HRA at the same price that it was purchased at. Mark?
On a business meeting, I met with Jim Ahai, just to talk about his business and discuss what his plans are for the future. And he discussed that he would like to make an expansion to his property by adding asphalt, or purchasing land, adding asphalt, and adding extra building. And he also said that he owns some property that he acquired through a swap that he had with DAC. And he said he really has no use for this property. He is not in the business of developing property. He wondered if it was something that we'd entertain of purchasing the property for him and assisting him with his expansion on his current site. I brought this to the attention of City Administrator Mike Johnson. He said that's something that we would entertain. So what he requested is Jim give us a formal letter of his expansion, and he basically said he's looking at purchasing of land, expanding asphalt, expanding his business, and he would like to have the city, I guess, purchase back a piece of property they sold in the past for the same price of which they sold it for. So there'd be no net difference. I believe that number is $57,200. Really, in talking with Jim, it wasn't really his intent to acquire this property. It just kind of fell upon him. It allowed him to, another situation to develop with DAC, and he said all he's been doing with the property is paying taxes on it, and it's been sitting there. So it was an opportunity to look at a opportunity to help him with his expansion, and then acquire industrial property. And then actually yesterday, this morning, in meeting with the client, we showed him available properties that we would have in town for a building that he was looking at doing, and this was one piece I did show him that said, we potentially would have this available. So it's, with the limited industrial space that we have now, it was nice to have at least another piece to show him along with the 10 acres that we have now. It was just an opportunity for us to increase our inventory and also to assist in an expansion effort.
Okay.
Mark, would you mention how the EDA, we voted on that and approved it? We did not have this letter that stated August 17th, and you weren't expecting an action item. And because it was at the bottom of the agenda, which is supposed to be information purposes, it got acted on because we wanted to get out of there?
Well, in that respect, it was more information just saying this is the process which we're going to take. It wasn't looking for the EDA to say, yes, we're interested in buying it, because it wasn't EDA funds, and it also wasn't, EDA going to be looking at acquiring the property. It was the HRA that was going to be taking on that responsibility. We thought it was appropriate to at least inform the EDA of this action, because it is land within the city.
And I'll speak on regards to the reason I asked to have this switched on the agenda from the HRA is so the council can understand kind of why we're here, and also to express my feelings that Mark and I had this discussion today. I don't feel that the city of Marshall needs to purchase property that's already developed for industrial purposes. What we're talking about here in our, we're talking 120 acres out there, is to make it available and to develop it, put in infrastructure and streets. This is already accomplished, and I feel this should be not picked up by the city of Marshall. There's never been any aggressive attempts to sell it. Mark told me, well, that way we got it on our list. Well, I don't know if the city needs to be the only one that markets industrial property. I think the private sector could take care of it too. Just looking for some feedback. Plus, we've never seen an appraisal.
Any other discussion, and this is an information item.
Yep,
You know,
that's right.
The action is later in the subsequent meeting, so this
Well,
is. the
I
time
guess
to
I
ask
have a
questions.
hard time trying to understand why we'd want to buy land back that we sold. You know, and I just think, you know, you start doing that, it kind of opens up the door to where you got some other people in town that have land alongside of what they got, say like Marshall Labs. If they wanted to sell us an acre of his land so he can improve his building, do we buy an acre of his land and get into that development and trying to sell that acre of land? I mean, I don't know why we want to buy land back that's already sold. He's holding it. If we need to, you know, if somebody's interested in it, he can certainly sell it to them.
Mark, you still got it on your inventory, obviously, right? I mean, even if the city doesn't own it, which they don't now, you said you did show it, so it's,
Well, that's because this has come in front of me. Normally, I would not show any private property to someone that's coming to the city. What I do is I work as a network.
yeah.
And-
But you would direct whoever, I would hope that there is realtors out there that may have something. I mean, this isn't just a city trying to sell the most property. I would hope this is a community effort.
It always is, and that's
Yeah.
how I always network. But in working with Jim, he doesn't even have it on the, for
Yeah.
sale. It's just, it was something that came up during a consult that we thought we could help foster expansion. And it would also, with limited industrial park space, I thought, well, that'd be also an opportunity to have that available if someone came, you know, in front of the city looking for a spot. It is not something that we're pursuing to go purchase more land and say, let's have a big stockpile, but it's kind of a two-phase, you know, it's a, first of all, good faith effort, but also it's looking at, you know, it's an opportunity that we could have, when someone comes to town, that we have a spot to show them. He was not interested in offering, it wasn't part of his intent. He's not a developer, and it's just something that fell into his ownership.
Mike?
Mayor, I'll take some responsibility as I work with our economic development director after he met with the High Brothers regarding this, that it was my understanding that there were some economic issues on their abilities to expand their operations out on Highway 23, and that when you take a look at the land acquisition, the construction of the additional 52 by 95 foot addition, the blacktopping and those elements, that there was a need for additional cash to assist in that project occurring. Whether they've exhausted all of their opportunities, I don't know, but I know in Mark meeting with them, historically and typically, we've not gotten involved in any commercial opportunities or whatnot, but this would be an opportunity to assist in encouraging that project to occur with the abilities that we could take that back. And yes, you're absolutely correct, we have not historically, at least in the 14 years I've been here, nor before that, to jump into buying any of the property back. We thought at the price that we sold it, yes, there was no appraisal, it was the same price that we'd established when we sold that back in 2004, so there was no inflationary growth or increase in an attempt for him to capitalize on any potential growth that's occurred in that land value.
There could be a decrease, though, see, we don't know that.
Two questions, Mike. What's currently on what's identified as 37 and 39?
37 is the ice plant,
Arctic Glacier.
Arctic Glacier,
Right
and to the north is the testing.
Well, you know, it isn't very often that the city, I believe, back in June of '04, we probably didn't, I think we had Cal come up with that number of 25,000 an acre.
The Industrial Development Committee has been involved as we expanded out in that area. The council, through recommendation from the Industrial Development Group, essentially did provide for developed property for sale at $25,000 an acre. And that's what it's been throughout the balance of what's been left in Part 2 and the new addition that was developed to the west. The land to Runnings, you discounted because of the size of the project that you did, and you sold that land at $20,000 an acre. The land to Victory Engines and to the utilities out adjacent to Lake Road and Michigan Road, you sold that for $25,000. So it's in the ballpark, and in fact, when you take a look at it, that at face value, it probably carries a higher value than the $25,000 per acre that we're talking about.
Well, I guess my personal feeling is, I don't know if anyone else has been willing to give us a $57,200 interest-free loan. If we can buy it back at the same price as 3 years ago, we should go ahead and do it.
It's not something we would recommend that we do every day, but it was to take a look at with the cash flow of the business operation that we had with the travel company to assist and encourage that to occur. So it's purely the council's choice whether you want to do that or not.
Again, this is information items. Any other questions or discussion or clarification? Knowing this will come up later in the other meeting. Any other questions of Mark or Mike? Not, thank you, Mark. Okay, agenda item number 17, and we'll try to be brief on this item. Councilmember Commission Board Liaison Reports, as was previously mentioned, the EDA met, minutes are in the packet. The major item of discussion was the Parkway Housing Addition, the marketing of the projects, the houses, the interaction of the Realtor with Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, as well as the authorization to entertain the proposals for construction of 3 additional homes yet this fall. Mike?
You have the minutes of the Airport Commission meeting of August 13th. The rest of them have not met.
Jenny?
No, nobody's met.
And Mike?
We had the joint meeting with the hospital last Monday, as you know, so that followed a brief hospital board meeting, and then the utilities meeting was short, no items to bring forward.
And Dan?
EDA and the Housing Commission, I was at the hospital meetings.
Charlie?
I didn't make the cable commission, but they worked on their final budget, wanted to come and bring some thoughts of, Wade wants to come and share some thoughts of what we'd like to do as a cable commission in the coming year before we go into a budget session. And Marsh Area Transit went back and, after we had met, and basically approved that, getting that building going, that we were gonna get going. And the senior center that I sat in for Doom, they brought forth their budget ideas and what they'd like to have done, and got a report that the new server for them that bring the food in will not pay for the ventilation system. So that ventilation system's got to be something that's gonna come out on budget as a capital expense item as it comes forward, if we're gonna continue to use that building in that manner. That's it.
Agenda item number 18, council member individual items. Jenny?
When we were talking about striping and arrows, out at the high school, on the end where the fine arts and theater is, coming out to 23, there, you know, you can go this way or you can go straight, but yet it's not, there's no arrows. There's a sign like way back there, if you remember to look at that sign. So with 2 young drivers, I would encourage some arrows to be put up there so that they can know which lane they can go straight on or turn, and, yeah.
We'll do that before school.
Anything else, Jenny?
No.
Charlie?
No.
Dan?
No.
Mike?
Yes, the only thing I know about the delay on the Main Street project is what I saw in the newspaper. I'm assuming that was, it was a MnDOT project, but because it dealt with the amenities, that the delay in essence was caused by whom?
And there may not be a delay, Mike. That was the outside chance that there may be a delay. Any delays may be because of other things, but at the time, it was very short notice. We didn't know what the impacts might be. We did an estimate of how long it took them to do certain items and made that into that length of time. In talking with the contractor since then, there may not be a delay.
Okay, but in essence, was it the city's responsibility?
City's responsibility.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Anything else, Mike?
No.
Mike?
No.
Agenda item number 19, review of pending agenda items. Any comments on the pending agenda items?
Mayor, one that Charlie mentioned that's coming forward at the next council meeting is the actual bids on the transit building. Those bids came in between $110,000 and $120,000 above project estimates. We met with the representatives of the Marshall Area Transit, the county, and council members Ritter and Insano, along with the architect and our engineering staff, to ascertain reductions in various elements. Additional funding is being provided by WestCap, and it will probably provide for, or the recommendation from the group is to request an additional allocation from the council, probably in the range of about $24,000, along with the county providing additional funding as well. So that'll be coming at your September 4 meeting, that trying to get the final cost reductions identified with the 3 contractors that could be worked into a potential change order is being handled by the architect, but that's coming forward out of a joint recommendation from all 3 parties.
Okay. Glenn, do you have anything more? Mark, do you have anything more for the regular council meeting? Tom? Dennis? Or Mike?
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn the Marshall's? Motion by Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Charlie. To adjourn, all in